What's up, gamers? My name's Gwem. This is Moral Queen. Me and her, we're gonna try and set the record for the fastest Maxcape on an iron that never accepts help from another account unless it's 100% necessary to do the content. No, I'm not the best at anything. I don't have a 200 mil, I haven't changed any metas or been the first to do anything important, but I do have a maxed UIM with endgame gear. She's top 100 as of recording this. Now that's not a brag. Nobody should do that. UIM sucks. But my point is, I don't think I need to be the best at anything to do this. All I need is what I have. And what I have is brute force, a high tolerance for masochism, and too much time on my hands. I've played enough of this game in enough ways that I think I can be just good enough at everything to go fast. Anyway, I saw Hebox and JCW speedrunning their Maxcapes on main accounts, throwing a year of rent at their smithing and crafting levels, and hiring an entire village to train their rune crafting, and I thought, man, these speedruns start with thousands of hours of GP in progress before the speedrun account is even made. So I started thinking about what the opposite of that might be, to achieve a Maxcape on an account while never once benefiting from the progress, time, or presence of another account in as little in-game time as possible. So I sat down and started thinking about the rules. They're in the description if you want to read them, and I came up with the basic groundwork for what I like to call the Iron Maxcape Speedrun Moral Percent. Basically, it means no ults, no carries, no dancers, no firelighting ults, no tanks, no interacting with other accounts ever, unless the game forces you to do so to do the content. I have a peer-reviewed and extremely scientific document that I put way too much time and effort into that plans every quest, diary, shopping trip, basically every click on the way to that cool red cape, and I'll be recording or streaming anything that could possibly be boosted by another account, or anything else I feel like sharing along the way. The start of this run is basically a modified and modernized version of the Osiris guide with a lot of my own special flavor mixed in, which means a stupid amount of clicking, starting quests and not finishing them for 100 hours, and picking up a mountain of random trash to fill up the bank and make my OCD flare up. It also means not much is going to happen for a while. I'm sorry. It just takes a while to lay the groundwork, you know? You can see the timer on screen, but keep in mind it isn't going to be even close to the actual time for the speedrun, since that's in-game time. What the timer is keeping track of is how much of my limited human time I'm spending on this, which means it's going to be a lot higher, because it includes things like world hops, and login screens, and everything that the game doesn't track while you're logged in. Basically, when I'm playing the account, I hit start, and when I'm not, I hit stop. Oh, and if you were wondering, new skills will be accounted for in this speedrun, even if I hit max total before they're released. I have a lot of checkpoints in my run that I can change plans to gather new resources or grind something new, so hopefully I don't end up losing a lot of time on that. But anyway, I think it's finally time for us to start talking about what's actually happening on the screen. So the first major goal on this account is 100 combat, which is why after 47 minutes, we have started 4 quests, gotten 15 firemaking and 5 fletching, and picked up a whole lot of trash. But like I said earlier, you've got to lay the foundation. Here's 2 magic on a rat with some free runes we got from a nice magic lady, as well as 3 and 4 magic on some more rats while I pick up some swamp tar. I made a quick pit stop to talk to an old man about a priest and his ghost on the way to talk to a wizard about some mysterious stones. Then I stole 3 cheese from a witch, and then bought some alcohol, before moving on to the next step of the X marks the spot quest, and then realizing that the person I'm standing next to was a UIM that wiped that day, and then I made fun of him, which is a very important part of the run. And then we made our way to Veos to finish X marks the spot and get a little bit of free GP before we ran over and bought a whole bunch of trash that we deposited in the bank deposit box by the monks, and then ran over to the hobgoblins by the crafting guild to steal their snake grass, and then ran all the way up to Falador Castle to start Knight's Sword. Then I ran north and got a magic level on a bear, talked to a boy and a man called Cake Mix, so that I could get 24 HP and 3 herb lore. And then after a quick home teleport, I talked to a vampire so that I could go start the Stronghold of Security for a little bit of GP, and then I got really tired of this narration format, so I sped up the clips. Now the main reason I did the Stronghold of Security is the GP, of course, but I also had it in the back of my head that I've been debating the viability of the Varrock Diary in a Maxcape run. It seems it might be helpful for the Grand Exchange teleport, but the Varrock body doesn't fit into my routing, and the XP labs don't mean much in the long run, so I'm still not sure about that one. Anyway, after picking up a bunch of iron bars, we went through the Castle Wars portal in Ferox to Castle Wars, and then ran to Yanel so that we could go to the Hunter and Cooking Shop to buy a bunch of random supplies for quests that we're going to need in the future. Which put us in a nice spot to run up north to start the Monk's Friend quest, steal a kid's blanket, get attacked by someone who steals kids' blankets for some reason. And at that point, I made the great mistake of forgetting an axe that I can actually use. I thought I was going to chop down a log. Turns out you need 5 wood cutting to use a steel axe. So I logged off, recalculated a little bit, and ended up having to walk all the way to the bank. Whatever, it doesn't matter in the long run. It's just annoying. After that ordeal was over, me and the monks had a party so that we could relax and get over it. It was wild. You should have seen it. They taught me how to woodcut. Crazy. So once I got over my hangover, I went and put those skills to good use. I thought it would be a good idea to use the RuneLite screenshots for every level, and I could just pop them up on screen, and it'd be cool. But then I realized it'd probably be a good idea to have the speedrun timer actually in the screenshots, so you can see the time difference between them. So I do that in a second, but for now you get this nice little spinny montage. Annoyingly, I did waste a little bit of time here, but time at this point kind of doesn't really matter, because you're not really losing that much in the grand scheme, but I did come up with a much better oak cutting and fire making method for later. After our woodcutting montage, we ran north a little bit to start stealing some cakes. We also banked some bread and chocolate cakes for quests and things like that, but then started dropping them for the normal cakes so that we could have wintertop food. And then I moved over to silk stalls so that we could get 25 thieving. That's also for an Artie diary requirement, as well as some quests. We need silk for that. And then I went over and started poking some sheep. It's a pretty easy quest. I don't know why people complain. I then finished Sea Slug for 24 fishing, extorted a silk merchant for his own stolen merchandise, bought a house, bought some crap, started dwarf cannon, and then fixed my timer. I then had a quick chat with this man, where I lied about my barbarian assault skills, and then settled in for a little while to pick up some planks. After I got 200 of them, I started Alfred Grimhand's Barcrawl, Waterfall, I helped out Femi, bought some arrow tips as well as some other stuff at the Grand Tree, finished Plague City for 15 mining, and started the Daddy's Home mini-quest, which has the longest cutscene in the entire world. Then I got a bunch of construction levels from that. It's great. Love that. Finished Jungle Potion for the biggest brain plan I've ever had. I was going to start woodcutting at this point, but I remembered, like literally last second, I was about to take my axe out of the bank that the Gout Tuber is more successful at lower woodcutting. So I got it in less than an hour, and I was so happy. After that monumental success, I decided to run to Falador, where I could do my new oak woodcutting and fire making methods so that I could get 50 fire making. If you're curious what's going on here, I'm basically stealing this farm's rats so that they can attack me and stop my skilling cycles. If you would like a guide, it is on my channel. It's actually a super fun method. I'm kind of sad that it will never be relevant again. Whatever. So we talked to a ghost, we bought a chronicle, and then we made our way over to Remington to use all of the planks that we had just picked up, which got us up to 22 construction. Then while I was at the Port Sarum fishing shop, I realized how expensive anti-poisons were for the Gout Tuber grind, and bought less feathers than I wanted to. But again, nothing is a big deal at this point. Anyway, we started fletching on the way to Veos, so that we could go to Port Piscarilius, and then make our way up to Arceus. I took the opportunity while we were passing through to do the Arceus library for favor and for things like the transport spell. I also kept fletching while I was doing this, got a bunch of fletching levels. I finished my runecrafting training at level 2, it's for a special reason later, and then I got 15, 16, and 17 magic before finishing 100% favor and heading on off to Wintertodt for 46 fletching, 80 fire making, and 50 construction. Now, last episode I ended by saying I wasn't going to spend the entire episode at Wintertodt, and I'm sorry to say that was a lie. I thought I'd be doing Wintertodt to level 90 at the start of the video, just for extra money and supplies and stuff, but I decided instead to just never come back. I hate Wintertodt, all my homies hate Wintertodt. 99 fire making can come from Kingdom or Redwoods or something else that I can do while I do artifacts or sepulchre or farm runs or anything. It can beat 0 time. I refuse to go back to the bright white migraine prison. Hate that place. I also want to say, I don't care how you play. If you took me calling this run moral as an insult because it's not how you play, then I'm sorry. It's a joke. That's it. If you want to do a speedrun where you use every alt method you possibly can, then I will happily ring that bell and smash subscribe or whatever. Good luck. Anyway, this video is full of so much random early game nonsense, I kind of didn't know how to fit it into a narrative. So we're just going to blast through some of these early quests and levels, play some chill music, and get to some of the more impactful content a bit faster, I hope. Anyway, here's another 28 hours of progress in like 10 minutes. So, as I said at the start of last episode, the current major goal is 100 combat. So here we are doing runecrafting. If you didn't see in the deluge of clips at the start, I finished the Temple of the Eye quest to unlock the Guardians of the Rift minigame, as well as Lost City and Troll Stronghold to have access to the Cosmic and Law rune altars. You may have also noticed the clips of me doing 1.5 tick shooting star mining, which I did all the way to 41 mining for the rune pick, as well as enough dust for the Celestial Ring for the +7 boost, and I had enough dust left over for Dragonstone gambles or soft clay packs or whatever. Stars are pretty powerful and extremely easy to solo scout with the Star Tracker plugin. I just waited for the Misthalin stars to come up on any world, home teleported to Lumbridge, ran through the swamp to Draenor, and if I hadn't found it by then, I'd run to Remington and Falador. Super easy. Now if you're watching this, you're saying, but there's other people in Guardians of the Rift, she's not standing alone. Yeah, I understand. It was kind of a sticking point for me when I was thinking of the rules. The phrase stand alone is pretty specific, but I think most people's idea of standing alone as an Iron Man doesn't involve restricting yourself from doing content. Now, there are solo methods for Guardians of the Rift, but to do them at low levels, they're awful. But, in my opinion, minigames are meant to be played in groups. That means the game developers intended you to play it this way, which in my opinion makes it not immoral. Now there are other cases such as like duos and trios and stuff where you can have someone of a much higher level bring you through the content. I'm not sure how much of an advantage that is for you, but that's not allowed. You know, that doesn't seem like standing alone. You're not doing what everyone has access on day one of their account. You know, if you do the quest, you get to go in a mass world. Seems moral to me. As long, of course, as you're not leeching. You know, I did all of the Guardians of the Rift games with a chisel and cells and repairing barriers and all sorts of stuff. I earned those points. So I got 50 runecrafting at Guardians of the Rift. I got a large pouch from the rewards pool, as well as a bunch of runes and stuff that I didn't mind risking in the wilderness. I needed a few magic levels, and Slayer is the way to do that this early in my opinion, so off I went. I never got PK'd, but I didn't get any Laren's keys either, so pretty neutral experience. I then made my way to Hasidius for a much more exciting time because I learned just how many places you can fit low alch. You can do it while you're plowing, you can do it while you're getting saltpeter. It is amazing. So much free XP there. I then used the favor I gained to get 42 thieving on the fruit stalls before using a quick home teleport to Lumbridge to finish up some stuff down here. You know, we got some stuff for Vampire Slayer, we gave some mana bones for a key. We went to Varrock then to finish up Demon Slayer, which didn't give me a quest pop-up for some strange reason. I poisoned a girl for no reason and got 5 quest points for it, and then ran off to start Grand Tree. Now I have no idea how this is efficient, but then I went to Port Sarim to do Pirate's Treasure, and then finished the Grand Tree. This was a little while ago, but it's clearly what I did. I definitely got scammed on this, you know, where you get the rock? Literally the last one. Look, 15 in the chat. Anyway, it got me 32 agility, 44 attack. Pretty happy with that. I then had the biggest fright I've ever had. That's never happened to me before. No one is ever there. Luckily, way too high of a level. I had the big logout button out, and I didn't even click it. Whatever. I stole some stuff from a nurse, killed a boy for Merlin's crystal, finished Murder Mystery, which was good, even though Quest Helper bugged and it was awful. I finished Fishing Contest and Goblin Diplomacy and all the Falador stuff that doesn't really matter, but it got me 11 Prayer, 16 Herblore. Then after 46 hours, we finally finished Restless Ghost. Pretty sure that's a world record. I managed to one-tick the Talisman in Dig Site Quest, which I'm pretty excited about. Finished that, got 49 mining and 20 Herblore, and then I had to watch the longest cutscene in the world. I know it's the second time I've said that, but they just keep coming. Anyway, I finished the beginner recipe for Disaster Quest, finished Biohazard, and then got my Arty Cape. I had finished the Easy Diary, used that in Agility, of course, it's very efficient. Got me 34 Agility, and then I moved on to an actual grind, which I'm pretty happy for at this point. I did 3-tick fishing and 2-tick cooking. It's very easy to do, if you know how to do it. But got a bunch of levels from that. I made a quick trip to Hasidius for a free woodcutting level, and then home teleported, ran through Alcarid, and made my way to Temperos. So I ended last episode starting Temperos because, as I said, the absolute very first goal is 100 combat, which is why I'm in my fishing arc, doing a skilling boss for a fish barrel. That was kind of a mistake, it turns out, because I didn't get lucky on the reward pulls like I wanted. Basically, the only uniques I got in 100 pulls were Pages and Flakes, which didn't do literally anything for me. You know, Jagex, a speedrun would be a lot more successful if I just had good RNG on literally everything I do. I feel like that's not a lot to ask. Especially on content I don't like doing, like this stupid fish blobby doesn't have any respect for me. Sorry. The only good minigame is Guardians of the Rift. What I did get from those first 100 pulls, though, was a big chunk of cooking XP, and a pretty big stack of ruby necklaces, so I ran off to do what I needed to do to make dig site necklaces. Now, thankfully, for my mental health and that of everyone around me, we've done a huge amount of the stupid running around collecting stuff, waiting for games teleports, and all that annoying early game iron stuff that's really hard to get around, which also meant that I was done with most of the quests I needed to get the kudos requirement for Bon Voyage. Before I actually did that quest, however, I had a few others on my list to do, and I was in a rare questing mood, so I figured I'd get them out of the way. I had a slightly scary time doing Shiloh Village, but we made it out without dying. Picked up some Boots of Lightness, did Lost Tribe and the Feud, and then got some thieving levels for GP. Forgot I was wearing a Ring of Life. I got all the way to 50 thieving just for a little bit of GP. My coffers were getting low, so I figured I'd take the opportunity. I did the Bon Voyage boat on the first try. I'm really not sure what it is that people have issues with, but everyone I see do it says it's like the worst quest in the game. No clue, honestly. I then built a few things in the camp just for the future, and then that's when I did my first birdhouse run of many. If you know much about EHP, you'll know that I'm going to be doing this for a very long time. After that, I made my way to my favorite pond in the game to do some cut-eat-barb fishing between birdhouse runs. I mainly just wanted a few extra levels to make Temperos solos more successful. If you've never heard of cut-eat-barb fishing, what I'm doing probably looks a little wild to you, and I get that. It's pretty simple, though. Skilling cycles in this game are sort of tied together, which means if you start an action, like making a teak stock or eating some fish eggs, and then click on the fishing spot in the same tick, you get a fish when the teak stock would have been made or when the eating delay finishes. That means instead of 5 ticks, like a normal fishing action takes, you get a fish every 5 ticks, and you don't even have to spend time dropping anything. I know it looks like a lot of clicking, but once you get into the routine of it, it's super chill. I really recommend it. After a few fishing, hunter, cooking, and agility levels, I decided to go back to Temperos, but this time I decided to do the solo firefight method for faster points per hour. If you don't know about this method, you can find 100 different guides for it on YouTube if you want to do it, but it's basically where you stall this big wet fish boy's wave attacks for the entire game so that the fires from his lightning attacks can propagate on the other side of the island. Then, once you're in the last phase, you go for a nice jog, putting out fires and racking up points before you stab him to death and get 10 or 11 points. It's pretty great. Turns out though, I kind of jumped the gun a little bit and got some pretty bad RNG and had to reset a couple of the runs, which all in all only lost me a bit of fishing XP per hour, which doesn't really matter in the long run. The XP I lose now is only about, 30 minutes of XP with late game methods. Plus it banked me a bunch of cooking XP and construction XP and some useful food that I didn't have, so we can call that a win for now. So I got up to 200 reward pulls, hoping my RNG would turn around, and I still didn't get lucky, so I decided to head back to the pond to do some more cut-eat fishing to help with the barrel grind. A few levels would help with the solo RNG, and it'd get me some agility levels to help with the run energy too. All while doing birdhouse runs, of course. The barrel's only really helpful once I can catch sleeping sturgeons at 70 fishing anyway, and even then I could probably get away with not having it if I got super unlucky, but it'd be a pretty big time loss as I want to do barb lore for the extra herb lore and cooking XP. If you don't know what that means, I'll tell you when it comes up, don't worry about it yet. Basically, all that to say, I got a few extra levels at the big pond before making my way back to Temporas. I also misclicked the teleport on my games necklace trying to get back to the pond at one point, so I just took the opportunity to cook most of the fish I got from Temporas. I did the 2-tick fish cooking method, where you just drop it all on the floor, pick it up, and cook one at a time. It's faster, I promise. After another brief, relaxing pond session, I decided to head back to Temporas. Those couple of extra levels helped quite a lot. And I managed quite a few 10+ point games before I hit a really annoying streak of bad RNG that it was so frustrating I said screw it, it's not that important. I headed to the reward pool annoyed and fished up a ton more cooking XP, and I also got the tackle box and the giant harpoon fish, which I was so mad about. I was in the middle of complaining about it on Discord when the barrel popped into my inventory. Very happy I don't have to worry about the fish prison anymore. With that, I reset my inventory and made my way back to the comfiest pond in all of Gielinor to start clicking fish as fast as I could. I couldn't even actually use the barrel yet, and still needed 45 strength and agility to catch sturgeon, as I was only 44, but once I hit those levels I was off. If you weren't quite sure how the barrel could be helpful, its main function in this speedrun is helping me bank leaping sturgeon. When added into the cut-eat barb fishing I was doing earlier, all I have to do is click the barrel when there's only sturgeon in my inventory, and I'm basically adding a huge amount of herb lore XP to my bank in the form of barbarian potion mixes. If you're wondering how I'm banking, I'm just using the games necklace in my inventory to teleport to the barbarian outpost. It's the same with when I do birdhouse runs, I teleport to dig site, teleport to Ferox with my dueling ring, and teleport back here with my games necklace. So I hung out at the pond until about 56 agility, which was the main purpose of the whole fishing journey, because of the Guardian Mine shortcut in Guardians of the Rift, but it also got me to almost 81 fishing, as well as 55 strength. With that, I made my way back to Guardians of the Rift to make some more GP, get some more teleport runes, and of course for the runecrafting XP. I chopped the sturgeons up between games so that I could get a little bit of cooking XP and bank the caviar, as well as made headless arrows during the games, of course. I wanted to take a quick second at the beginning of this episode to go over the rules, because I'm getting a lot of questions about stuff like Alt Slayer and other things of that nature. I thought saying not getting help from other accounts was pretty clear, and there is a link to the rules in the description if you click down there, but I guess I can talk about it too. And there should be a timecode on screen to skip to if you just don't care about any of this, which I understand. Now I know there's a lot of words here, but it's not really supposed to be a super restrictive rule set. I just wrote down anything that came up while I planned the speedrun and anything that anyone else mentioned to me that might conflict with the idea of playing an Iron account morally. The biggest portion of this is basically dedicated to just not being assisted by other accounts for any reason other than it being necessary to do a piece of content, and it includes a bunch of specific examples of that, like boosting torsos, paying for carries, mains selling to shops, Slayer ulting, stuff like that. There's also a whole section for group minigames, and I typed a whole lot of stuff there to basically say mass worlds are okay as long as you aren't doing leech strats or being boosted, and if you can prove that. And if you're wondering how you'd prove that, you can go into the description and watch some really long, sped up, unlisted videos of some very repetitive content if you really feel like it. It's pretty simple, really. Thanks for listening. Oh, and I'll also remind you every few episodes, the time on the screen isn't the actual time we're using for the speedrun. That's going to be in-game time, which I'll reveal once I max. The time on screen represents the real human time that I've put into this, including, login screens, hopping, logging out while I look stuff up on the wiki in a panic, all of that sort of stuff. We finished last episode still working on the first major goal of the account, which is 100 combat. So after a little bit of Guardians of the Rift, I took my runes out into the wilderness and alked while I killed stuff. Most of the wildy is dead, it's basically free. I didn't do it on a revs task though, because that's a little bit spooky, but I did do it with fire giants in deep wildy, and I even got a couple of Laren's keys out of it. When I ran out of runes, I went back to Guardians of the Rift to stock up a little bit and get a little bit more runecrafting XP, of course. I got pretty lucky on the pearls from these pulls, so I was pretty happy, and then I got even luckier on the tarnished locket. Which, if you don't know, you have a chat with the Lumbridge guide with it in your backpack, and he gives you an Amulet of the Eye, which is like a budget crafting cape, basically. Teleports you right to the bank. Well, it's a few steps away, but it's not too bad. With the runes I just made, I went back out into the wildy for a few more magic levels in Laren's keys, and then went off on a questing journey again. We finished Ernest the Chicken, Vampire Slayer, got a gem and some agility tickets to buy a Snapdragon for Fairy Tale Part 1, which got me some free farming XP. Finally finished Prince Ali Rescue. We finished enough of Fairy Tale Part 2 to get the fairy rings unlocked. Talked to Oziak for Dragon Slayer and a bunch of free melee XP. Gave Dave a real evil soup. Clicked back and forth on some old spaghetti code to finish Holy Grail. We proved to the barbarians that I'm an alcoholic. Saved a man from some dogs in a cave to finish Horror from the Deep, then ran off to get an incredibly quick rune and mithril axe from nature spirits. Got a prayer level, getting the ecto tokens for animal magnetism, and then yet again got stuck watching one of the longest cutscenes in the world that, holy do I wish I could skip these, I've seen them way too many times, Jagex. Anyway, I finished animal magnetism, had a quick jog around for some runes again. I managed to pull an abyssal lantern, which is just amazing, it's more free points, then went back out into the wildy for some more alking. Except this time we have a high alk, so it's even more XP. Once I was finished with the Fire Giant task, I got a Spider task and used it for some easy range XP, then started going back and forth between Crystalia and Turiel when I didn't get a quick, doable task. Fun fact, that keeps your Slayer streak going up every time you do a Turiel task. My hope is really to get a Wilderness streak going to build up some points pretty quickly, but at this stage in the account a lot of tasks would take way too long to bother with, so this is what we deal with for now, it works fine. After a few more Turiel tasks and levels, I started doing some more quests again. I did Spirits of the Elid and Underground Pass. I was then assigned bears, which I bonked on the head for their attack XP. And then Crystalia was kind enough to give me green dragons. I was pretty excited about this, because the next thing on my route was prayer, so I bopped a couple of them on the nose until I got 50 attack, and then teleported off for another quick session at Guardians of the Rift to fund myself using Ivan's Blast. I've been generally pretty unlucky with the drops up to this point, but that's the way she goes sometimes. After that, I made my way back to the dragons and stayed until Runelight said I had enough bones for 43 prayer, then ran off to Edgeville to make burning amulets and made some sacrifices to the gods of PKing. I tell you out there, do the bones, respawn at Lumbridge, repeat. It's super easy. PKers aren't real. With my newfound protection, I went off to do Ghosts Ahoy, did my first tree run for some farming levels, and went off to do Monkey Madness. I made all 4 Greegrees for RFD later, got a bunch of combat XP, and did another tree run for some more farming levels. Oh my god, the early game just keeps going. There's Wanted and 41 Slayer, 53 attack from Slug Menace, which also got me 51 crafting. I got 2 free herb levels from Shades of Morton, did a forced group activity, killed a lady for some gloves, then completed heroes quests for even more herb levels, before running up north for Fermi Trials and finally being able to take a nice chill break while working on Throne of Miscellanea. The Rake Hop Alk method is pretty chill, your reputation goes up pretty fast, but I realized halfway through that I wasn't sure where I learned this method or even if this is the right way to do it. But it was pretty quick and I don't have to do it again, so whatever, I guess. After I finished Throne of Miscellanea and Royal Trouble, I put what little savings I had left over into the coffers and made a quick trip to the Thieves' Den to get the Rogue's outfit. To help with run energy while doing this, I teleported to Ferox after every run, and teleported back with a games necklace. That way I didn't have to use all my energy potions to have run energy, I could just get it at Ferox. The outfit isn't as useful to me as it could be. I'm not spamming 99 thieving early for GP, but I will be doing a little bit of blackshacking and master farmers, so it's worth the time investment, I think. After another quick hourly run, I teleported down to Pole of Niche and got to 65 thieving on the low-level bandits. I'm really trying to push the farming level up here, it's super important. So we did another tree run, got a dragon fruit seed from a birdhouse run, and started mining some volcanic ash for ultra compost because I finally got 3 teak seeds and I wanted to get the hardwoods going. I then went back to Pole of Niche to finish off 70 thieving and top up the GP stack of course, and then made a quick stop to do some volunteer cooking for soldiers in his cities so that I could get 100% failure to use Tithe Farm. Now, personally, I kind of enjoy Tithe Farm, but I'm sure some of you out there are cringing about it, which is super valid. The reason, or reasons I guess, I'm here are Autoweed and the Herb Sack. Now, Autoweed is just like a huge QOL time save thing for farming, that one's not the biggest deal, but the Herb Sack makes herb runs a lot faster, and also helps me get herbs faster from Slayer. Plus the farming XP from doing both of those is incredibly helpful for me right now to get past the easy farming contracts and start getting more herbs more consistently. The method I'm doing here is called 24+1, which is pretty well named because 24+1 is 25, and that's how many seeds you plant per run. I start on the little single patch in the south, and then plant in all 3 of the middle rows. Realistically, if you lose too many ticks or don't want to click use on the watering can on the first round, this is impossible. But, to be honest, I used to hate Tithe Farm until I figured this out, so maybe you want to try it. It might seem difficult, but I did most of this grind kinda stoned, and had quite a lot of misclicks, and only lost, I think, 4 plants during the entire Tithe Farm grind. You might mess up on the first few runs, but once you get the walking pattern figured out, it's pretty chill. After doing a few runs and running out of energy potions, I took my fancy new rogue's outfit to Draenor Village to click on a farmer and get punched for a little while I thought about whether logout farming was worth it. For a brief moment, I had the idea of just sitting at a single patch, logging in and out, and farming a patch that's guaranteed not to die, or just sit at the farming guild and log in and out to do contracts for 3 months. From an in-game time perspective, that'd be great, right? But, now I don't know about you, maybe that sounds like a good idea, but it would make me want to cry. Like, really hard? If you want to do that, I support you, that sounds great, and you'll definitely set a new record in 10 years. Now that's not to say I haven't and won't be doing it a little bit. I work from home and have notifications and timers set up to do birdhouse runs, contracts, herbs, all of that, so quite a lot of the hourly stuff gets done throughout the day with me logging in and out between them. But then in the evening, or on the weekend, if I'm doing something else on the account and the notification comes up, I'll gear for a run and take the extra in-game time to do it. The positive to that is that it gives me even more time to do zero-time activities, like fire-making, fletching, glassblowing, alching, whatever other things I need to do, so I think it all evens out in the end. Anyway, I went back to Tithe Farm after I had a decent stack of birdhouse seeds for the Master Farmer, got a couple more farming levels, and ran off to a place I'm going to get very familiar with during this run, the Farming Guild. I set up the pre-plants for easy contracts, which are pretty bad in general, but I wouldn't be doing many, and they get me some more Harrowlander seeds for energy potions, as well as some seeds for easy contracts in the future when I get Janed and have to downgrade my contracts. After I finished setting up for my contracts, I did a quick bird and tree run, then made my way back to Tithe Farm to finish off the points I needed to finish the content. People still like to say Rat Catchers is the worst quest, but that's kind of old news. They've fixed that quest, it's fine. But have you seen Tower of Life? Jagex, come on. Look how long it's taking me to search these crates. What random intern in 2007 thought it should take 5 full seconds to search a crate? You have to do it like 30 times, and you can fail. I feel like we should be writing in Fowler about this. Anyway, after finishing my new favorite thing to complain about, I went off to do the Temple of Ikov. Now fun fact, if you don't already know, you don't actually need 40 range to do Temple of Ikov, even though it says you do in the game. You just need a single ice arrow in your quiver and a thrown weapon. It's great, this game is way too easy. So then I killed a man, because I'm a good person, and finished Temple of Ikov. I killed a bird for an ogre, and then took a quick workout break at Giant's Foundry for a few smithing levels to smelt the perfect gold ore for Family Crest. Foundry isn't great XP, nor is it incredibly efficient, but when you're as poor as I am at this point in the run, you can get it done pretty quick for pretty cheap with plate bodies from Horvik and Barok. After I hit 40 smithing, I teleported to Soul Wars and ran into the Edgeville dungeon to realize why Framed still comes down here. And then this old man gave me some terrible gloves, which I immediately traded for better ones, then made a pit stop at the gnome house for some energy potions, got 63 farming on my first beautiful teak trees, then I got 64 hunter, 37 herblore after a Herolander run, and then minigame teleported back to Giant's Foundry. Now, editing Gwen isn't really sure why speedrunning Gwen did this. It's not in the plan until much later, though it is with the same method. I think I was just tired of questing. My spacebar holding hand hurts. Once we got back from our round trip of Gielinor, we completed one small favor for a nice chunk of herblore XP, and then ran into the jungle to fight a demon that's much higher level than me. I don't know if you guys know this, keep it on the DL, but basically all you need for Legends Quest is 43 prayer. I'm only like 1300 total right now, it's not even that hard to do, and they're just gonna hand me 130,000 herblore XP, like look at that. I mean, I love it, but it's insane. With my humanitarian deeds done, I unalived a man in cold blood to complete Regicide, and then booted up the old PvP Arena group finder to start working towards some zero-time imbue scrolls. Now, when most people do the PvP Arena for scrolls, they just AFK and die on purpose because it's faster than trying. And while the in-game time spent on the PvP Arena world doesn't transfer to your main profile, that still didn't feel very moral to me. That's not to say I didn't die almost every time, but I never claimed I was good at PvP. I tried. If you're curious about the PvP arena, because there's like zero reason you'd know about it unless someone told you at this point, you can queue for random 1v1 matches while you do other stuff in game, and it gives you a little pop-up. Like this one, when there's a fight ready for you. Most of my PvP arenaing was done while doing all of the RFD subquests, or the brief moment when I was in Hesidious Kitchen to finish 70 cooking off. But by the time I was done with Awawogi, we already had the points I needed for an imbue scroll. I only did one at this point, but I'll be needing a second one at some point later, but again, it doesn't count for in-game time, so it's not really a big deal. With our new powerful rune gloves in hand, we took the next logical step, did a birdhouse run, finally set up for giant seaweed, collected some mushrooms for super energy potions, and took my cat on a desert vacation for a Claren's little helper. A lot going on in this one. By this point I was running pretty low on birdhouse seeds and herbs I needed, so I took a little moment in Hesidious to steal from an honest man for my own profit while plotting my next steps. The goal for the end of the episode is to finish Guardians of the Rift, which means the full outfit for ZMI later, and the Abyssal Needle for the humongous pouch. Before we can get to that though, all this questing has brought me down to basically zero things like in zero time. I used all my logs, my runes, my molten glass, my arrowheads, all of it. So I ran to Draenor and clicked a knife, then a log, then a tree, over and over and over until 60 woodcutting, to build up a supply of willow logs that I can fletch during Guardians of the Rift. I didn't record it, but I went to Port Khazar to buy enough sand and soda ash to get to 61 crafting for Lunar Diplomacy, and I got 55 and 56 crafting, turning it into molten glass to do between the Guardians of the Rift games. After a couple of games, and with what we had from last time of course, we had enough for an outfit piece, so I bought the top. It's pretty cute. I got a fletching level, and then a rune crafting level, and then a crafting level, and then I got 58 herb lore while on a birdhouse run, so I finally used my tithe points to buy the herb sack, and, you guessed it, went back to guard some more rifts. I don't like to keep too many points, because I like to know exactly how many pearls I have, and on our first batch of pulls we managed to get an Abyssal Needle, which means all we need now is more Abyssal Pearls. However, again, by now I'd run out of stuff that I could do between games, so I took my shiny new 60 woodcutting to the Woodcutting Guild for the Invisible +7 boost, and clicked knives and logs again until I got 61 woodcutting. While doing a birdhouse run, I realized I should get some more volcanic ash, so I took the time to stock up, and then had the saddest seaweed run of my life. With 75 rune crafting, I left to do some runs and managed to pick up enough giant COE to hit our first goal of 75 crafting, and then went back to Guardians of Rift for the final time. I've done this grind on 2 different accounts in the last few months, and I've gotta say, it really is good content. It's so easy to just kind of like switch your brain off, and it's super powerful for early irons especially. Usually people wouldn't do the outfit until about 80 plus rune crafting, but the way my math works out, it takes 0 input for a huge output of XP and GP that will be massively helpful for this run moving forward. As far as luck goes, mine was pretty average on this run. I did get 2 lanterns and a die, which helped boost the pearl stack quite a bit, but I also had a long string of pulls with almost no pearls in them, so that kind of balances out, I guess. Having the needle and the outfit before we unlock Dale is going to be so nice in a couple hundred hours. Oh, and I got a shield left half on my last pouch too, so I did kind of get spooned on that. After those last few pulls, I traded in my lantern for the last pearls that I needed and bought the final piece of the runecrafting outfit. And, I'm sorry to say, that's going to be the end of this episode. Last week, we finished our Guardians of the Rift grind, banking the Abyssal Needle and the outfit for later. We also unlocked rune gloves from Recipe for Disaster, and clicked a lot of knives, logs, and trees to stack up a big pile of arrow shafts. This week, we're back with more farming, and even more old quests that make you do stupidly long activities for no functional reason other than to make me watch the timer tick up while I mine stupid debris in some stupid nerd's stupid basement to complete an 8 of the Myrique. And then I put on my eagle fursuit to catch a ferret in a box for Eagle's Peak. Then ran to the desert to get a fire-making level. And finished the OMG Flesh Eaters for some free prayer XP. I made a quick pit stop in Arceus to pay this guy a stupid amount of money for some magic mushrooms, then reanimated the souls of the dead to kill them again, I guess? I don't know, I'm not a doctor. I then went and had the luckiest bone-saving streak at the Chaos Altar with these org bones that I got from Zogre Flesh Eaters, which got me way past the 46 prayer I needed to complete Rumdeal. I also did the Cabin Fever quest to unlock Mostly Harmless, and Watchtower quest so that I could finish the Artie Medium Diary, and then went for a quick run around the map to start completing some achievement diaries. I think if you're watching this, you probably understand why diaries are important, but people have some really weird conceptions about how to calculate what is and isn't efficient to do when it comes to OSRS, so I'll talk about it a little bit. A lot of the diaries have you doing things that have nothing to do with the goals you've set, right? Playing mini-games you don't need things from, or shooting stupid little birds with a terrible bow, all sorts of things that don't help you towards your goal. What that means is we have to know how much time the diary, the quest, whatever we're looking at, saves with its rewards for the future. Usually that's deciding you want 15k Herblore XP, and then that gives you the Rex to do a quest or whatever, so it's worth it to you, but in the case of a speedrun, we have to think a lot more macro. Another thing on top of that is that this is an iron account, obviously. Something being efficient is a much more complex question because of the routing, resource gathering, and management, and the RNG involved in a lot of how you play Iron Man. You might think it's like a solved game mode, but there's a million spreadsheets with iron efficiency rates and calculations all the way from Tutorial Island to 200 millal, but that's the difference. Efficiency for the macro view of 200 millal is a lot different than efficiency of a low in-game time Maxcape speedrun. You know, we're not aiming for post-99 XP, and we're especially not using alts, which a lot of the methods do have in their calculations. Like a Crystal Halberd is obviously worth the time it saves getting 200 mil Slayer, especially if you're using it for PvM as well, because you're dealing with such a huge amount of time for it to make a difference. But we aren't doing 3,000 hours of Slayer, we're doing 300. Basically all that to say, I've done so much math about DPS and XP rates and zero time XP and all the fun nerdy stuff to come up with a pretty good list of what diary items are worth it, and here's a little list of the ones I've done so far and why.
We have the Arty Easy and Medium Diary, which is pretty self-explanatory. There's a ton of good things, like the thieving chance increase, the noted drops from the Tower of Life for Herblore, extra wounds at ZMI. They're all just massive boosts for the time it takes to get them. We have the Desert Easy and Medium Diary, mostly for the future promise of cleaning herbs and making unfinished potions at Zahur with the Hard Diary. I also did the Current Easy Diary for the Rada's Blessing 1, and also to work towards the Ash Sanctifier in the future for free prayer XP during Slayer. The last one for now is the Fremennik Easy Diary, right now just for the little XP lamp boost, but also for the Fremi Sea Boot teleports and for the future promise of quicker teleports to the Troll's Stronghold herb patch. Now that isn't all the ones I'm doing, but people seem to like when I explain in more detail the reasoning behind the stuff that's going on, so hey, here you go. With my patience for questing and diaries at an all-time low, I retired to some relaxing Wildy Slayer outgame. After all, we're still working towards our first goal of 100 combat, right? So with Slayer, I considered there's two options. Turiel skipping for task boosting with whatever lower level master I could use, which is what people consider to be efficient, or Turiel skip to get past the first 5 wilderness tasks, and then print points and GP before I can even get a black mask. Now, I don't know about you, but one of those sounds a lot more interesting to me, and I'm not scared of the wildy. That place is a snooze fest, I swear. I mean, at least for low-level Slayer. The first 5 task streak to start earning points is a little RNG, and I did have quite a few Turiel tasks to get over that. My RNG was a little bad. Other than getting a 9kc Basilisk head, of course. But once you get over the 6, 7, 8 task streak, you can basically start skipping and blocking any task you want, as long as you don't go too nuts with it. The main goal of the Wildy Slayer was to gain some combat levels, mainly magic, and work towards building up some Slayer points as quickly as possible. The first 5 tasks, like I said, are hard to get past at a low combat level, but once you get past that, they just print. Every task gives you 25 points, it's great. Every task also has a chance of giving you a Laren's Key, which is just a huge boost to the smithing XP, herblore stacks, runecrafting XP, and the cash stack, which is just a huge bonus because GP specifically is going to be very tight for this run. I think people have a lot of misconceptions about Wildy Slayer, because the Wildy makes them think of how high risk the hotspots are. You know, the bosses, Black Chins, Rev Caves, places like that. But I've done like 80 wilderness tasks on another account, and I only got PK'd once outside of the Rev Caves. This isn't because I'm nuts at the game. I mean, I am, but that's not why. It's because the Wildy is essentially empty outside of the hotspots. Sure, you might get some PK dork who decides it's the right time to own some Iron Man for 30k loot, but you're not on a task for more than an hour, there's tons of worlds, and 90% of PKers don't care about you unless they see you leaving Ferox and you look juicy. What this means is, you're probably missing out. That said, it's only really worth it at the start of Slayer. There's a ton of low-level, very easy tasks that, with a small amount of Turiel skipping, can start paying out points very quickly. And the lower your level, the less PKers can attack you. But even things like Mammoths, Ice Giants, Lesser Demons, at lower levels, if you use the right weapons and pay attention to the minimap, of course, are higher XP rates than what's currently EHP. Once you hit 85 combat, it's a different story though, being able to use Neve and start getting more Barrage and Prayer tasks without the risk. It's much more XP per hour. But until then, you're gonna have a lot of points to spend before you even need them. Anyway, once I hit 60 attack, I took the Boat to Port Tyrus to buy something incredibly fun to use, the Dragon Halberd. I'm telling you, if you're not using halberds, you're missing out. You gotta get with the times. These things rule. Now, Revenants aren't exactly efficient, but they're fast. They give free wildy food and potions that I can use for other tasks. They still drop Laren's keys, and there's a chance the RNG gods can shine on you and bless you with a giant pile of money. Sometimes that's dragon plate legs, sometimes it's 1 mil from a totem that makes life easier for a while. You never know. The Rift Caves are a little scary, especially without scouts and stuff, but I'm not in there in 30 plus wilderness having to run through tons of prayer. I'm getting a fast task done on low levels that give me a tiny chance of hitting a jackpot while I also build up points incredibly quickly, even with skipping a ton of tasks. Wildy Slayer kinda rules. At this point, I decided to take a little break for some questing to do something a little less prayer flicky for a little bit. and after getting scammed by a very sensitive keyboard button and not being able to stop a golden bowl from being made, I finished Between a Rock for a free defense level, built a room in my POH just for my pet rock to finish the Fremennik Medium Diary, and then ran back out into Deep Wildy to blast some ice giants. Now I'm not sure why, but I bought a set of Proselyte to do a fire giant task. The Proselyte makes sense, but it was late and I went a little autopilot and I got a couple of levels on some giants before I remembered where I was and went back to Cristelia to block them. Don't you just love when a gamble pays off? On another brief break from the wilderness, I took a troll to the jungle, suffered through some more painfully slow old quest mechanics to complete my Arms Big adventure, and then ran off to the desert to finally start Desert Treasure. And most of the bosses went off without a hitch, other than the shadow guy who really wanted to see me panic. But I made it out alive, finished the quest, switched my spellbook to Ancients, ran over to my guy on the hill to buy an ancient staff, and then got right back to the Wildy Slayer, but this time so much more satisfying. This is why you gotta get into the Hallie game. After we hit 58 Slayer and built a little point buffer back up after spending too much on skips and unlocks, we left the Wildy for a birdhouse run, a farm run, and my first Hespori KC, before teleporting to Lumbridge to kill some sentient food minions, and then killing some sort of confused food wizard to unlock the Bearer's Gloves. With our new best in slot gloves, and the main goal being 100 combat of course, the next logical step was obviously to buy a bunch of buckets, go back on what I said in the first episode about my plan not including the Varrock Plague Body, and do the weirdest, most poorly codedest quest in the game to finish the Varrock Medium Diary. And then made my way to the most comfy quarry in all of RuneScape to mine some sand. Now the method I'm doing here, shout out to my guy Trisk for teaching me this. It's called 3S1G because of the part where you mine 3 sand and 1 granite. You drop the granite, as well as the 1 kilogram sandstones. Basically 75% of the time you're mining sand and 25% of the time you're mining granite. It adds up to more mining XP per hour, which you can never really complain about, and the lack of running while mining, compared to doing just 4 sand like most people do, means you have a pretty low deficit of run energy even at low agility levels. At higher levels it's positive, and you don't even need energy potions. It's pretty cool. It's pretty simple once you get the rhythm down, like most tick manipulation stuff. Just find the camera angle that works for you, mine until you're full of sand, click the sandstone grinder on the minimap and zoom out to click it, and then go back, zoom in, and repeat. It's a little annoying with water skins, to be honest, but having things filling inventory slots does make it easier to drop the things I need to while doing the method, so I guess it balances out a little bit. After we got our mining levels, we ran off to the Fremennik province to fall asleep and fall over what seems like an unhealthy amount of times to finish off lunar diplomacy, then made myself a pile of teletabs for the future, and made my way back to the quarry to finish the sand I needed for 75 crafting. And that's where I'll leave you this time, folks. Last episode, we got a bit lucky playing the Wilderness Lottery, found our happy place in the quarry, finished Desert Treasure, Barrow's Gloves, and Lunar Diplomacy, and of course did enough farm and birdhouse runs to run out of seeds. So between mining sessions, I headed to Hasidius to yoink this man's property until I had a week or two worth of birdhouse runs banked, before making my way back to the quarry to finish the 8.9k buckets of sand I needed for my crafting goal. Once that was done, I teleported all around Zia, getting 20% favor in all the houses I didn't have it in yet, healing Shazian soldiers, mining some sulfur in Loverking, and completing Clan of Korend for Piscarilius' favor. With all the houses now at 20%, I had to run around all over again to do all of these just super engaging and very interesting Zaya house quests. I killed a big snake for Hasidius, realized the brutality of murder for Piscarilius, slashed up some very spooky undead for Arceus, used some just genius quick thinking and high tier gamer clicks to solve some puzzles where I totally used my brain for Loverking, and did something for Tale of the Righteous. Honestly, I don't know. I've done it like 5 times and I have no clue what happens in it, but I did it. And then I went for another quick skilling break at the quarry, this time with 3 tick 4 granite instead of sand. Today's video is sponsored by 3 tick 4 granite with the inventory in the middle of your screen. I'm sure you've all seen someone doing 3 tick granite, maybe on YouTube or while you're AFK mining sand on your 4th hardcore, and thought, wow, that's amazing. How cool is that person? I want to be like them one day. What a gamer. Right? Well, it's even easier now than it ever has been before because of RuneLite letting you move your inventory to the middle of the screen. No more rocks with longer clicks or having to not drop after the 4th rock because your mouse moves too far. Now every rock is just a twitch away, giving you much more time to drop your granite or whatever else you want to do with your new free time. You too could get 85k mining XP per hour with just a little bit of practice. Use promo code BREAD for 300% extra mining XP for your time today. Not available in Australia. Big thanks to 3 tick 4 granite with the inventory in the middle of your screen for sponsoring this video. Now, I didn't really need this right now, but I have the tools I need to do it, and I can still do farm and bird runs while I'm doing it, and I'm gonna have to do it anyway later, so why not when you're in the mood, you know? Thanks to the great deals from our sponsor, we got 72 mining, did some hacker tactics to save some ticks on a herb run. Whoever said fire making wasn't useful? They're a fool. I then teleported up to Relica to do some woodcutting and a little casual decapitation to finish the Fremennik Isles quest and get a free defense and crafting level, as well as a Helm of Natisnot that I can equip, which is cool. Once I was done with the Fremenniks, I made a quick pit stop in Cerberus's lair to get Magic Head from a terrifying old man and ran off to complete the best quest in the whole game. I mean, spy penguins, stoner musician penguins, communism? What's not to love? After living out my dreams as a penguin, I completed Cold War and made my way to the bank to super glass make the sand and giant seaweed I had banked to get 75 crafting. I was only 76 magic, so I had to Wizard Mind Bomb to cast the spell. It's not really a big deal. Since the rec is only 77, the boost lasted a really long time. You can buy 12 Mind Bombs per world, by the way, in Berthorpe. Please don't go through the dialogue in Falador if you ever need Wizard Mind Bombs. Casting Super Glass Make on all of the sand and seaweed I had banked got me to 65 and 66 crafting. And then I made my way back to Zaya to finally just get the 100% favor grind over with and not have it living in my head rent-free all the time. I figured out how to 1.5 tick the sulfur for Lovaking favor and finished 100% with minecarts. I dug up some worms on the beach for Piscarilius favor, and then fought crime and beat up some soldiers for Shazian favor. For whatever political reason, that let me get some architects to throw rocks at a statue, which makes even less sense to me. To build a statue of someone doing Winter Todd on a new iron. The bar in the Jagex office gets used a lot, I think. Once whatever that was done, I went to a political meeting where I felt completely out of place, hacked up a big demon and an assassin, then forgot I wasn't high combat and underestimated a big hand ghost, and had to make a tactical retreat to Ferox. But on my second attempt, I knocked him down in max strength bonus gear if you don't think about it. Then I ran off to another political meeting where I was severely underdressed and finished Kingdom Divided for the offering spells and the upgraded teleport book. Now that I was done with and didn't have to think about Zia favor ever again, I filled up my Book of the Dead and teleported to Piscarilius to do what's probably one of the top 3 methods in the game. Like, out of all of them. Artifacts are kind of OP, I feel like a lot of people need to hear that. You can actually do so many other things while you're training thieving, and it's not even that many clicks. If you haven't seen this before, it's a pretty simple concept. You get targets from DJ Khaled in Port Piscarilius, teleport to a bank to energy restore or fill your inventory with things you want to train with, teleport back to Pisk with the book, and run around avoiding the guards to wherever the plugin tells you to go, basically. You steal an artifact there for a guy who pays more in experience than he does in wages. You have to either find a world where the guards are set up or set them up yourself, of course. There's a lot of videos that show you how it's very easy, and you'll lose an artifact at the start setting up one of the guards, because you have to teleport away. But after that, as long as someone doesn't ruin them, please do not be that person. They should stay lured until the next game update. Ferox banking isn't really ideal, but dueling rings are incredibly easy to get, and having energy restoration without paying for construction or spamming energy potions that I don't have is a huge plus. It does lower the thieving XP per hour a little bit because of the extra running time and the time it takes to restore energy compared to stamina potions or pools, but you can still blow 3 glass from the teleport to the free-for-all portals, so you don't really miss out on any crafting XP unless you run out of glass while you're in Pisk. That doesn't really happen that often unless you have some bad guard timing while you're in the southwest house, and if that happens, that's why you keep a stack of feathers and arrow shafts on you at all times. You gotta stay strapped. If you're wondering why I think this is one of the top 3 skilling methods, it's because of just how many things you can do while essentially getting, 150 to 300,000 thieving XP per hour passively. With a long enough render distance, you can click all the way across the map and do whatever you want while you run. Blow glass, cut gems, fletch arrows or bows, alch or enchant or superheat or make potions or whatever your little heart desires. Not all of those are efficient to do, of course, but some people don't play like that and that's okay. The point is, with the main part of the artifact loop being teleporting to Piscarilius, it gives you time to train a ton of different skills by either taking items from your bank to use before you teleport, or if you're a UIM, using things like the Karamja gloves to teleport somewhere near a resource you can gather, like gem rocks, and cutting the gems while you get the next artifact. It's incredibly easy for the amount of stuff you can get done here, and it's really easy to get into the flow without much practice and get your XP per hour to climb higher. Highly recommended. Oh, and if you're wondering, you can get to the book recharge statue with the Radha's Blessing Woodland teleport, if you have that, or when you have 1 teleport remaining on the book, use it to teleport to Shazian and run south. With 74 crafting and 84 thieving, I ran out of glass about 6k XP from 75 crafting, which means I was a little unlucky with the super glass make, but 6k XP is nothing with Slayer bracelets and birdhouse runs and whatever else, so I'd get it soon anyway. Not a big deal. A quick tree run got me 79 farming, and I made my way to Varrock to buy a pile of plate bodies from Horvik to get some quick, cheap smithing levels at Giant's Foundry. And that, my friends, is where Moral Queen will leave you for this episode. I clicked a few Addy Rocks, killed an endangered creature, and was rewarded with some Herbal XP and some Fashionscape boots. After the Fermi Hard Diary was complete, I spent a while running around the jungle, killing some creeps, and trading a stupidly expensive plant for a completely useless machete to complete the Karanja Easy and Medium Diary. Next up, it was time to finally finish Wildy Slayer, so I spent a little while at the furnace to make some Slayer bracelets, made a quick stop at the Rogue's Castle for a 34kc Dragonstone drop, teleported to Shazian to buy a bunch of stews, and got a +5 crafting boost on the first try with spice I already had in the bank, so that I could finally enter the glory era of the run. We're at the point here where Wildy Slayer isn't as overpowered as it has been for me in the past because of my now very attackable combat level, so I'll only be staying here until we hit the 50 task streak since I'm already pretty close and the point boost is very worth it. Plus I can never say no to Laren's keys. I love a big chest. I re-extincted some mammoths. Someone tried to rush me while I was doing bears. I had a very lucky Laren streak on some jellies. Got a defense level on some revs and then lost one of my glories. Then I went off to Loraniel's big chest to make a little money back and managed to get the second best hat in the game. Friendship with Broodoo Mask is over. Dagonhai hat is my new best friend. After some more very lucky tasks, I got 8 more Laren's keys and made my way back to the chest to try and regain some of the money I spent on burst runes. I didn't get super lucky on these, but I got 2 magic log drops, so I'm set for some really good birdhouse runs for a while at least. This is why I'm not scared in Deep Wildy. Every single one of them clicked the door trying to get in. Imagine rolling 4 people deep and not bringing a lockpick. Another reason I'm not scared of Deep Wildy. This guy was smart enough to bring a lockpick. I guess he's killing resource area people maybe, not a bad idea. Super persistent, got lucky with an axe running away so I was out of combat. But if you one-item a light ballista with no switches, no entangles or freezes, I don't know, man. All you gotta do is run around some corners, get gap and log out. I even forgot I had a dragon spear on me to escape and I still made it. Do better at random P carries. Or, don't. That's also fine. When I finally finished that magic axe task, I completed the 50th task streak and got a 375 point boost, and made my way back to Loran's big old chest for the last 3 keys for a very, very long time. The drops were kinda useful, not amazing, except the Dagonhai rope bottoms I got with my very last key, which is just a straight upgrade over Mystic, which is what I was going to use for 99 Slayer, and it's banger Fashionscape. With Wildy Slayer out of the way, and given that I wasn't 85 combat yet for Neve Slayer, it was time to train some combat levels, while also gathering supplies that'll be incredibly useful for future skills. I started out here with feral vampires at Settled's house, picking up the vampire dust for Sepulchre later. If this seems weird to you, I get it. It doesn't seem efficient, but you use the ash to pass barriers in Sepulchre, which lets you loot some of the chests. That means that each one of these ashes is not only getting me combat XP, but also herblore XP from the seeds and herbs, magic and slayer XP from the runes, GP from all the alchs, and prayer XP that you get for passing the barriers. If you're wondering why I don't just unlock vampires as a slayer task and get the slayer helm bonus when I have that to speed it up, I thought the same thing too at first. It seems like a no-brainer. But we're at the point in the run where we need combat levels to do some very important quests that are coming up, and I'm not 85 combat, so non-wieldy slayer is just Teriel skipping and Konar, which at my slayer level and with my available teleports, sucks pretty hard. Plus you're never going to get assigned enough vampires to get enough dust for 99 agility, and if you do it without ashes, in my run anyway, you probably can't afford a max cape, never mind the things you need to buy to get the levels. So instead of putting it off, hoping that higher combats or an inconsistent DPS boost would help you do it faster, you do it early. Use the time you have to spend anyway to your advantage, giving you higher levels for when you do get to Slayer again. It's easy. After 60 defense on the vampires, I got 75 hunter with my cool new magic birdhouses, unlocked bigger and badder and broader fletching while I was in the area for a tree run, then minigame telted to trouble brewing to kill some cave horrors for the black mask. In the same vein as vampire dust, it's not worth waiting for cave horror tasks to get a black mask because you'd be doing a lot of slayer without it. I think most people probably figure that out intuitively, but maybe not. Cave horrors are actually one of my favorite mobs for early game irons because they just feel like you make so much progress. They have low defense and okay hit points, which means they die quickly. They drop a few alchs, so you make a bit of money. They drop useful stackable loot, mostly decent herb seeds. I just think they're neat. In my opinion, you're actually pretty lucky if you go dry on cave horrors on your iron, from a macro perspective anyway. You know, if you're killing cave horrors right now, watching the kill count hit 4 digits without a drop, look at all the other stuff in your loot tracker as well. Maybe it'll help. That said, this is a speedrun, so I decided to get the mask at 131 KC and got out of there instantly. That place sucks. But since we still needed combat levels, I had to do something else useful, so I used the waterbirth tabs I made after Lunar Diplomacy to teleport to Relica, and bought and banked a ton of sardines, leaving to Ferox when I was low on run energy and teleporting back with the waterbirth tablet. I actually bought like way too many sardines because I have a small brain, but whatever, we keep going. If you've ever watched any other Iron Man series before, you probably already know what this is, but for the uninitiated, you put animals or animal-related items into some water, and an alien spawns a hybrid that you can kill for herblore secondaries. And if you've got the Arty Medium Diary done, they drop them noted. It's even got a bunch of collection log uniques. It's good content. I got to 64 attack before hitting the 3,500 red spider eggs I needed for 99 herblore, then clicked a teak tree for 80 farming, which meant I could boost with a garden pie to plant a spirit tree. So that's what I did. I planted and protected it in Port Sarim to unlock another herb patch to add to my runs and make travel in that area a little bit easier. With cave horrors and spidings finished for the account and no other grinds to do for combat, I went back to the most dangerous place in the swamp for more vampire dust. I left early the first time I was here because it made more sense for me to do the more annoying RNG things I needed first, on the lower stat creatures before killing another 1,000 vampires. I was only there because I needed to do something easy after a road trip, so. With 69 hit points and 69 attack, we hit 2,000 vampire ash and 83 combat, then ran back to my happy place at the pond. In episode 3, I did what's called cut-eat barbarian fishing, which does exactly what it says. You click a knife and a log and a fishing spot, cut up the fish you fish, and either eat the fish eggs or knife the log again to stay in a 3-tick cycle. This time, we take it even further. Decant barblore is basically the same method as the one I just talked about, but you also use the caviar you get from cutting up sturgeon to make barbarian mixes, which you then empty, decant a 4-dose potion into the vial to make a 2-dose, until you run out of potions, all while still knife logging and cutting and eating fish eggs. Once you're out of potions, you fill your barrel with sturgeon, fill your inventory with caviar, and take it all to the bank. The herblore XP you get while you're fishing isn't very high, but you don't need it to be because it's 0 time. And you're also banking about 40 more caviar per trip for more future herblore XP that you don't have to do herb runs for. Most of the methods I've done so far, I've been pretty happy to say that you should give it a try because you might like it. Some of them are genuinely fun and way easier than you'd think. But you're going to need a lot of practice for this one. Maybe do some 3-tick granite and 2-tick swordfish before you test this one out. However, if you've ever dabbled with tick manipulation stuff before, I very highly recommend this. Most everything in RuneScape, you learn the pattern, and eventually you learn it well enough to turn your brain off and not have to think. Which is good sometimes if you're in the mood for it, but Barbler is almost the opposite of that. Your clicks stay in basically the same pattern, but you have to keep track of what's in your inventory with every cycle. What fish did I just get? Does it need cutting? Did it give me roe or caviar? Do I have enough inventory space to make a potion? Or do I need to burn through a low-level fish backup? Do I need to decant more potions? I know you're like, what a fucking nerd, I get it. But it's like playing a real game for once. You have to use your brain and do a lot of actions. You almost never get to do that in RuneScape out of very high-level PVM. I want to get that StarCraft Pro level of actions per minute, you know what I mean? High effort, high reward. I got 71 cooking, 60 agility, and 82 fishing, then ran off to check the health of my spirit tree, and finally have a good teleport to the Falador herb patch. A few tree and herb runs later, we got 81 farming on Hispori, and made our way back to the pond to hang out for a few days. The goal is to get enough strength levels to get to 85 combat, and to be able to start doing the high level actually useful quests to get to mid-game. But that's going to take a while, and I've got a lot of fishing to do, so this is where I'll leave you for this episode. By the time I ran out of potions to use, I hit 84 fishing, 72 strength, and 62 agility. Went and got 76 hunter on a birdhouse run, and then went to the Wildy Rogue's Castle to build up a nice stack of dragon stones, as well as a few sharks to help with a future goal. I basically just stayed until I ran out of prayer potions, because I didn't have like a number of gems or sharks I was aiming for. I just kind of wanted to be able to make a stack of useful jewelry for teleports, have a little bit of high healing food so I can kill some higher level stuff, and a lot of the other drops from these chests are super useful too. Got crafting XP and GP from turning the non-Dragonstone gems into amulets to Alk, Death and Chaos runes, noted Tinderbox and Pike, all stuff I totally needed. I had another real banger of an attempt at taking my life, which I escaped by running around a corner, and then went back to safety and enchanted myself some skills necklaces so I wouldn't have to use the fairy ring to get to the farming guild anymore. 61 smithing happened by accident while I was stocking up on some gold bars so that I could go make those amulets I mentioned a second ago. I charged my new skills necklaces at the Legs Guild and then ran off to Mauritania to do the blue box clicking minigame called Quest Helper. This is the first major change I've made to my run so far, because it turns out I vastly overestimated how much GP I could upkeep passively before having the major GP methods unlocked. Most people, if they need combat levels, would do Slayer, and originally that's what I was going to do. But if I want to do Slayer even slightly efficiently at 85 combat, I need either a huge amount of runes, or a huge amount of GP to buy runes. Basically, I don't have enough money to burn through at the rate I need to, so we take a sec. Did a little research and found a few posts and videos about accounts that had finished Sins of the Father with about the same combat stats and gear that I had, so that became the plan. Sins of the Father unlocks some of the most powerful content in the game. It's kind of actually crazy you can do it this early in an account. Sepulchre is the best skilling method in the game. Like, seriously, it's stupid powerful. It's the best agility XP. It gives you 0-time construction and prayer XP at a pretty decent rate, and the loot is insane. The other incredibly powerful thing that Sins of the Father unlocks for me is Dale Essence, which means when I'm not doing Sepulchre for stacks of GP and runes, I can do 1.5 tick Dale Essence to use at the Orania altar for stacks of runes and GP. I don't know about you, but stacks of GP sounds pretty great right now. After Darkness of Halavale was done, I killed a giant slug thing in someone's basement, teleported to Tob to do Vampire Slayer 2 and finish Taste of Hope, and then ran up to sleep to stalk a man for basically no reason. Like, you're telling me all the people out here have never seen him go down the stairs right next to the front door of the church? Anyway, whatever, I murdered another vampire in the basement and stopped the progress of science by using violence. Had some very dramatic meetings with some wolves and a sexy vampire. And then I killed a less sexy vampire so I could rub my clothes on his dead body to make them smell like him, and then got ready for my first actually difficult fight in the run. Now, unlike some speedrunners with 3-letter YouTube account names, I didn't want this to take 300 attempts, so I gave myself 2 attempts to see how close I could get and see what needed to be tweaked. On the first attempt, I got hit by a few shadows and still almost got into the lightning phase. I didn't count the second attempt because I forgot a ranged weapon for the Bloodveld spawn and tallied out, and on the real second attempt, I got through to the lightning phase before I ran out of food, which meant only a few more levels and a small accuracy increase. It was doable for sure. Which means it's time for the second major change I've made to the run so far. Pretty early on, before I even made the account, I did the math to see if getting a Dragon Defender would save more time than it took to get. I came to the conclusion that it would only be worth it if I got lucky on it, as it doesn't save a meaningful amount of time if you're doing primarily Barrage Slayer. But what I didn't account for was, well, when changing my plan, I didn't expect that for sure, but I didn't account for the annoying phase where you're high enough combat to attempt high-level content, but haven't done enough PVM to get gear because you did everything 0 time. Which means the Dragon Defender is worth it now. If I go dry on it, it saves me time getting melee levels from Inefficient Slayer, which makes the Sin Daddy fight take less attempts, and makes it easier, and if I get lucky on it, I still get levels to help with the fight, and it still gives me more accuracy to make the fight easier. Win-win. I got the Bronze Defender at 9 KC, the Iron Defender at 28, I went a little dry for the Steel Defender at 102, and even drier for the Black Defender at 211, made up for that with a Mithril Defender at 216, got the Addy one at 283, and got the Rune one 4 kills later. So far, pretty lucky overall, so I made my way downstairs to get 73 strength and 70 hit points, and got the Dragon Defender at 384 KC. That's 101 KC for the Dragon Defender, 1 over drop rate. Jagex loves me, I swear. However, I didn't get that many combat levels, so I was a little annoyed to go back to the Sins of the Father fight without much higher combat levels, but I was living on the hope that the Dragon Defender would fill that gap for me. Attempt 3, Lightning Phase. Attempt 4, Lightning Phase. Attempt 5, I died when he died, and I thought it didn't give me the sympathy completion because the quest guide still said I needed to kill him. So I made some pineapple pizzas and went back to find out that it counted, and I just wasted 5 minutes. Kinda took the wind out of my sails for something I should be super hyped about, but hey, I got it done. We killed the Sinful Daddy and finished Vampire Slayer 3, got 70 Herblore from reading the book they gave me, and then made my victory lap through Darkmire to start doing Sepulchre. Now, anyone who's smart and was paying attention will know that that was a mistake because I have a small brain and didn't move the steps around in my spreadsheet when I changed my plan, so I forgot I needed 62 range for the grapple traps and 54 prayer for the vampire dust and 56 construction for the bridge, so we'll call this a test run. Once that very intentional test run was done, I took the dragon bones I had in the bank to the Wildy altar to get 50 prayer, took the heads I had in the bank from Slayer to Kurend and got 53 prayer, and then I was going to kill a few more green dragons for prayer, but this is when the servers imploded and everyone had a bad time, so I went to do Grey Chins instead. Grey Chins are pretty terrible, especially in the Monkey Madness 1 tunnels, which is the only one I had, but I only needed to get enough to get 55 range so I could wield Red Chins, which, I mean, it didn't take that long, so... I'm not going to explain the whole method I'm doing, but they call this one-tick chins because you can set the trap in 1 tick once you've started the cycle, and it makes catching them a lot faster. Basically, you knife a log, walk where you want to lay the trap on the next tick, then lay the trap and run at the same time on the next tick. Easy as. As long as the servers don't die on you. When I had my first stack of chins, I stole some alcohol from an angry god to make some range potions before ooking my way through the jungle to throw some small mammals at some dead monkeys. Annoyingly, I ran out of chins at 54 range, so I made my way back to Current to get 77 Hunter, and then over to Feldip to start catching red chins with the same method, which got me 78 Hunter before I left back to the skeletons. I cried a little bit, because the gray chins I caught got me 2k XP from 55 range, but it was a pretty quick fix, and I came back and got 55 range before throwing 800 red chins to get up to 58 range, which basically told me how many chins I would need to finish this up. Those chins got me to 81 Hunter, and I made my way back to these skeletons for the last time to finish up 62 range. After that, I went to finish the bones I needed for 54 prayer at Green Dragons. Got the level while being attacked by just the scariest Chaos Altar clan there is. I bought some feathers and teleported back to Sepulchre to build up the cash stack a bit before working on the construction level I needed. I think Hallowed Sepulchre is probably my favorite content, like out of all of it. It's genuinely great. It's better than any raid or any other skilling method. Mod Huskies somehow managed to find the perfect balance between being focused and varied enough to be interesting and keep you interested, while also being AFK enough to do a ton of zero-time skills and watch YouTube or whatever. Also, it's so OP, you make so much money, and the XP rates are so high it feels so rewarding to grind out. So I got here with 62 agility from Barbarian Fishing, which means I only have access to the first 2 floors for now, and even that is still like 40k XP per hour, even with the looting. The loot on the first 2 floors is pretty trash compared to the rest of the floors, but if you're like me and you finish the Papa Sins quest with like 12 GP to your name, it's incredibly worth it. And because I took the time a few episodes ago to collect Vampire Dust, I also get 200 Prayer XP a couple of times a run from looting, and 300 Construction XP from building the bridge traps. Love this place. In the future, I don't loot the first 2 floors, but for now they're a godsend, and I'm starting to finally be rich again. If you've never done Sepulchre before, you probably think it's super difficult. At least I did when it first came out. I think I got to like the end of floor 3 and teleported out on my old main account because I got so frustrated and then didn't come back for like a year or 2. But when I finally did come back, armed with tile indicators and real game knowledge from my UIM, it clicked, and I've loved it ever since. The first 2 floors do a pretty good job of teaching you how the other 3 floors work, and if you're brave, you figure out pretty quickly how to run a lot further than you think you can between traps. Most of the time in here I was making headless arrows for broad arrows in the future, but I did a little bit of alching sometimes with rune bolts or blood runes from the coffins to help boost my magic and GP stack a bit. I don't alch the blood runes forever, they're important for later, but I have a lot of blood runes coming my way in the future, so GP is a little bit more important right now. I got 70 fletching while recharging the crystal saw I used to boost for the construction traps, 55 construction from those traps. I bought the hallowed ring, got scammed the level up message for 71 agility, ran out of oak planks, and went to the Remington House portal to 3-tick some oak trees for my butler to take to the sawmill with the GP I made from the vampire graveyard. Once I had stacked up enough planks, I went back to the Sepulchre and got 56 prayer, 71 fletching, and 72 agility, which finally unlocked the 3rd floor. From here on, we don't loot the coffins on the 1st floor unless I forget and do it by habit. And I only loot on floor 2 and floor 3 to ride the line between good XP and a decent amount of loot to help me progress. I still bring in planks to fix the bridge on the floor 1 trap because it's a lot of 0 time construction XP, but I just go on to the next floor after fixing it. Floor 3 has another vampire ash thingy, so I've unlocked even more prayer XP per run and bumped the agility XP up to around 57k per hour with looting on 2 floors. I love this place, it's amazing. After 57 construction, 58 prayer, and 78 agility, I wanted to vary things up a little bit, so I left the Sepulchre and ran south to the Dale mines. Dale Essence is actually super important to the run. Not only because it gives 155% experience at the ZMI altar, but because it's the only guaranteed method of getting Essence that doesn't rely on PVM. Sure, you get a little bit through Slayer, and you could do Guardians of the Rift to 99, but ZMI is much faster, and it makes a lot more money, and you won't get enough pure Essence from 99 Slayer if you want a Maxcape. The method you're seeing me do here is 1.5 tick. It's basically the same thing I did on Shooting Stars earlier in the run. Pretty much, we start a normal 3 tick cycle, walk 1 tile, and click the Dale over and over to trick the game into rolling the success chance twice every 3 ticks instead of once. Double XP, double Essence, it's easy. I won't be doing all of my Essence at once, as almost any method is going to be interrupted by Herb and Birdhouse runs, so I can switch back and forth whenever I want to do something I don't have to think about. It's pretty nice. After around 15,000 Essence, I went back to the Hallowed Sepulchre for more floor 3 runs to build up the GP even further. With 59 prayer, 58 construction, and both 81 and 82 agility, which took 804 runs, we got access to floor 4, which means our earning potential and XP per hour are about to get even higher. A new floor means a new looting strategy, of course, so now we build the bridge on floor 1 without looting, get the prayer XP from the braziers on floor 2 without looting, and loot everything on floor 3 and 4. Floor 4 also unlocks a guaranteed prayer obstacle at the end of the floor, which means an extra 200 prayer XP per run for free. Now that we have one of the best moneymakers unlocked, I want to do it a lot, right? If I had my way, I'd just stay here till 99, but I need things to 0 time during it, and the options are pretty limited right now because I haven't stacked up too much useful stuff. So I need to do some grinds that progress me to more things that I can actually do during Sepulchre and other activities, but the route to those needs money to be spent, and a lot of time doing things that don't seem to relate to it. Basically, I'm in that cyclical Iron Man thing where I need to do the content to make money and progress the account, but I need to make money and progress the account to do the content efficiently. So I stayed at Sepulchre until I got 60 prayer, got 72 strength and 82 farming on Hespori, and made my way through Mauritania to do the easy diary. I finished Haunted Mine in Tarn's Lair, then made an upgraded Salve amulet. I got a Mark of Grace and Canifis, and then minigame teleported to Trouble Brewing to finish the last task of the medium diary. At first, I was kind of annoyed that I was being forced to do nothing. You have to empty your inventory before you come in, so you can't fletch or alch, but I was determined to figure something out while I was here, so I started running around and got lucky pretty fast. So you can pick up these monkeys on an island in the middle, and it gives you 15 agility XP. And then when you put it down on the floor again, it stands next to you for a few seconds before it runs away. But if you pick it up quick enough, you get 15 XP. So Troubled Brewing is like 20k agility XP per hour now. You're so welcome. So I picked up a monkey 440 times, finished the Mauritania Medium Diary, cashed in the PvP arena points I got a few episodes ago and imbued my black mask, and with the fact that we have an actually useful amount of money now, it's time to get back to Slayer. Use up all the bloods and deaths we got from Sepulchre already, use the GP to keep going, with the aim being to finally complete the first goal on the account that I've been talking about since episode 1, 100 combat. I'll put the task list on screen that I'm using. It's from the Iron Man Skilling Discord, which is very easy to Google. But Slayer at this level is pretty simple for me. First real task I got was Aberrant Spectres, which are pretty cool. We get a lot of Herblore XP and a few Alks from them, and they aren't awful to kill, so we Prayer Flick, use Specs as many times as my ADHD will let me remember to, and pick up the herbs and seeds when they happen. However, Melee Slayer is always going to be slower than the alternative, and we want to get tasks like this over with as fast as possible, so we use Expeditious Bracelets to speed up the tasks a bit. I started out by training defense, which I wouldn't normally do, as most of my defense XP is going to come from defensive casting Barrage Slayer, but I want to push to 65 defense to do King's Ransom and unlock Chivalry as soon as possible. With Prayer Flicking and a huge supply of prayer pots from Herblore and Sepulchre already in the bank, Chivalry and Piety when I get 70 prayer are basically free to use forever. And they give a huge amount of max hits over what I have right now, so it's a good thing to push them early. Those Aberrant Spectres got me 61 defense and 62 Slayer, and then Neve sent me over to Karen to kill some Anku. I used to get kind of annoyed with Anku tasks on other accounts, but that was before I knew the joy of using Ancient Magics for basically as many tasks as you can. We use Expeditious Bracelets to make the task a little bit faster because it isn't amazing, but you kill Ankus quickly enough that you can even log out between stacks before they respawn. It's incredibly chill. After that, we moved over to another room in the Catacombs for a Dagannoth task, which is yet another Expeditious Bracelet Barrage task, except this one's a little bit more awkward. So normally, you stack things to Barrage by running over a single tile over and over until all the mobs you have aggroed on you are on one tile. But that really only works if they're 1 by 1, but in the Dagannoth rooms you have the little ones that are 1 by 1 and the big ones that are 2 by 2, so they aren't as friendly to your running back and forth methods. The easiest way I can describe it is this. You freeze one of the big ones, run under its southwest tile, then run around that frozen one through the southwest tile of the others surrounding it without walking away from the original frozen Dagannoth, and then run back through to pull the other ones underneath into the range of your spell. It's a little weird, and it's kind of annoying sometimes, but it's still very fast and it's fine once you figure out your tempo with it. Those Dagannoths got me 62 defense and 81 magic. And then the Slayer lady sent me off to the desert cave for some cow fights. This is one of the few tasks that make me regret being an iron and not having cannonballs, but at the very least, they die pretty quickly. We use Expeditious Bracelets and hack away with the Dragon Skimmy to get 63 defense. We're back at the Dagannoths again. We got 72 hit points, 88 combat, and 63 Slayer. Killed a few baby blue dragons for 64 and 65 defense. Then went to Camelot to play Phoenix Wright and complete King's Ransom. We bought a dragon mace and a battle axe, then went upstairs to kill some knights to prove I'm religious or something. With our first real Slayer grind about to be really in full swing, I hopped over to a PvP world to turn all the teak logs I had from Miscellanea into planks to get some important time-saving items on the account. PvP plank making is kind of boring, but it's super fast. You just have House and Camelot teleports in your inventory, and GB to pay for planks, of course, teleport to your house, call your butler, send him to the sawmill with your logs, and bank at Camelot to get more. If you've seen an Iron series on YouTube, you've probably seen this. I didn't have quite enough logs for the level I wanted, so I went to Fossil Island to 1.5 ticks and teaks to finish up the stack. Those teak planks got me to 64 construction with tables, which I boosted with a crystal saw to make a mahogany eagle lectern, so I could make myself a big pile of house tabs to get around while I'm not on the normal spellbook. I got a PB on Hespori, got 64 Slayer and 73 hit points, there's no way. Then just had the worst task streak I've ever seen from Neve, which made me give up and decide to Turiel and Konar boost up to 50 tasks to make my life easier and the grind faster. For the uninitiated, you do 9 tasks at the lowest level Slayer Master, and 1 task at the highest level Master you can use. Mostly involves a lot of killing low-level monsters that die in a couple of hits, but you build up the points really quickly so you can keep unlocking and skipping things as much as you like. My 30th task was Aberrant Spectres in the Slayer Tower, which means more Expeditious Bracelets and Herblore XP. I got my first and second superior monsters here with no insane RNG sadly, as well as 75 strength. My 40th task was Calphite, which was over pretty quick, and my 50th was my first ever Dust Devils task, which is just so nice to see. Now annoyingly I hadn't extended them yet, so the task wasn't as big as it could have been, but with Bracelets of Slaughter it's still a huge task. I didn't do this first one as efficiently as I could. I wasn't stacking them while I lured them, but it was late and I was mostly just excited to be doing good Slayer tasks again, so we'll do better in the future. It's still very satisfying. Especially with the Dragon Halberd, they die so fast. I got 67 defense, 63 range, 66 Slayer, and 82 magic from those Dust Devils, then went off for my first Bloodveld task. Like any melee Slayer task, we put on the Expeditious Bracelets and slap away at them while we prayer flick. I was using alt side to have a couple of them spinning around and stacking them so I could barrage them, and it's possible it's worth doing solo with barrage, but I haven't figured that method out yet, and I don't want to do it with the lower freeze time you get from Ice Burst. Those Bloodvelds got me to 76 strength before the task is over, and then I took a bit of a diversion down to Shiloh Village to 3-tick some gem rocks to make a few more Slayer bracelets. After that was done, we got sent to the Worms, which are basically big snake-shaped Bloodvelds, which we prayer flick using Expeditious Bracelets and hit with a D-Skim. Maybe you're seeing a pattern here. The only difference is the superiors actually have mechanics, unlike the Bloodveld superiors, so you have to do a little backstepping if you want long trips without restocking on food. I got 77 strength on some more Bloodvelds in the Darkmire basement. Got enough herbs to finish 72 Herblore, and then took another diversion. First up, we went to Relica to get 10 Marks of Grace, which I traded from Amelace pack, and then went over to Edgeville to do the biggest time waste in the entire run. Now I know I'm gonna get the levels at some point, and it's a waste of time to boost, or blah blah, whatever, I know, I understand. But the stamina pool is such a huge time save over what I'm doing right now, running through Ferox Enclave every time I want run energy in a bank, so as soon as it was possible, I made it happen. 36 attempts later, maybe my worst steal luck ever, I was able to start making stamina potions. I used the logout method to keep my boost while I made my way to Ferox to get more super energies from the bank, and ended up making all 25 stamina pots I could with the Amelace I bought. The Crystal Saw let me boost to make teak shelves, which let me make tea that gives me another +3 boost on top of that, which meant I could build a superior garden, a restoration pool, and finally upgrade it to a stamina pool. Couple that with the Sepulchre teleport crystals I spent my hallowed marks on, and we were never more than a few ticks away from 100% run energy and a bank. It's so nice. With that huge hurdle finally complete, I went back to the underground to mine some Dayalt Essence, and that's where I'm going to leave you for this episode. put my stats and bank on screen for you to see where I'm at so far. Last episode, we assisted the vampires in robbing Saradominist graves in the Hallowed Sepulchre, where we got 83 agility. We trained a whole lot of combat to work towards the first goal on the account, which is 100 combat by doing Slayer, and settled down for a break in the Day Alt Mines because I actually hate Slayer. I honestly can't do that much of it at once. I don't get why people love it so much. Sorry. So that's where we start this episode. After I'd mined a few thousand more Dale Essence, my Slayer battery had kind of recharged a little bit, so it was time to go back to the good old Turiel skip for a point buffer method we all know and love. Now with 100 tasks done, 750 points, and most of the useful upgrades already unlocked, I took the plunge on getting the full Slayer Helm upgrade, basically just so I could have the bonus on Dust Devil and Aberrant Spectre tasks, instead of having to wear nose pegs and masks and whatnot. Anyway, it's a big step. I don't know what it is about Slayer that makes me hate it so much. I think people love it because it's so varied and it makes it more interesting or whatever, but it's the complete opposite for me. When I pick something to do in old school, 85% of the time, I get to pick how I do it. But Slayer, you're just told exactly what to do, and you don't even get to do it for that long, so it's the same cycle of bummer tasks that you really don't want to do over and over, and the only real way to be more active is to use specs more often and prayer flick. And that sucks. I guess it's just the melee tasks I hate. Barrage tasks are kind of interesting at the very least, because you don't just click a monster and wait for it to die, but you know, you run around luring, keeping an eye on the stack size, use specs when it's a good idea, you know, like use your brain a little bit. Anyway, bring your cannon to Falador, it's time to remove Slayer, thank you. After 73 attack and a dragon sword from some worms, I finally got my first Jad task, so it was time to get some range levels. Technically, I could do it at 65 range or whatever. I've done it lower before, but those capes also took me like 3 hours, and there's no way I'm willing to do that on this account. So we're back at the chins, fighting an insane amount of bots with hunter capes that don't seem to care if someone is already in the spot, building up a stack of small mammals to throw at some monkeys. After a while, I got kind of annoyed with the bots and not being able to log off without losing my spot, so I made the executive decision of going to the wilderness. Because black chins are better. They're better range XP, they're better hunter XP, they're just in the wildy, which is fine as long as it's not super active. But it was super active. So I decided to skip a couple steps, saving them for later when it wasn't peak weekend times, and went off to the Gnome Stronghold to start the Monkey Madness 2 quest. I'm only finishing up to where I unlock the tunnels for chinning, because as far as I can tell, the only benefit to completing the quest is the XP rewards. Because it's not like I'm gonna camp demonics for a Zenite, or do monkey agility for the backpacks, you know what I mean? The XP reward would take me like 2 hours to get on my own, so if you do it in less than 2 hours, it saves time technically, but it's such a long quest and there's a ton of opportunities to lose time or fail or die on bosses or whatever, so I'd want to do it at a higher level, but at a higher level the XP rewards aren't nearly as worth it. I mean, let me know if I'm wrong, but I really can't see a reason to finish it. Anyway, I unlocked the tunnels, turned on Protect Melee and Eagle Eye, and ran back and forth on the same spot over and over while throwing volatile chinchillas at some deranged zombie monkeys, I think? With 79 hit points and 74 range, I let my ADHD get the best of me and looked away while prayer flicking, and of course didn't look in back in time to realize that I had messed up. So I lost a few hundred chins, which is a little frustrating, but I'm still ahead of time because of the RNG grinds like the Gout Tuber and the Black Mask, and it gave me a good excuse to focus on just doing black chins to not lose any more time on the range grind. After a few easy escapes, as well as 87 Hunter, those black chins got me 577k-ish range XP per hour for 75 range, and I can't find the clip, but I died again with a few hundred chins on me for the exact same reason, so I went back out into the wildy again. With our last few chins thrown, Moral Queen achieved 80 range, boated to Port Tyrus to talk to some elves, killed a moss giant, and planted a tree to finish roving elves and got a crystal bow, which was pretty quickly reverted and then recharged, so I did have 2,500 charges instead of the 500 they give it to you for whatever reason. And then I went off to the fight caves. I'd take the time to talk to you about my setup and how I managed to get through it and all that good stuff, but... and you eagle-eyed folks may have already noticed, it turns out that I completely forgot you lose the task if you leave the cave. And I left the first time because I wanted a different rotation. Luckily for me though, my girlfriend came in when I was on wave 10 and noticed, so I didn't waste more than a few minutes. Sadly for me though, that means it's time to go back to Slayer. Luckily, Neve was nice to me for once, and we got another Jad task before too long, and I waited to know the rotation before going in this time. So here's the Chad Fire Cape fit. Power Amulet, Slayer Helm, Blue Body, Red Legs, Boots of Lightness. Tell me you're not terrified. And she pulls out the Dagon High Robe Bottom and Blood Blitzes you? Come on, it's over for you. There is no contest. I also brought along a Crystal Shield, which I didn't realize I couldn't use yet, and some dragon knives I got from the worms, which actually turned out to be incredibly useful for the little blobs and the rangers and the bats. Super useful. Now normally I'd use the Fight Cave Wave Predictor plugin that shows the spawn locations on the ground before the next wave, and it was definitely active when I went in, but for whatever reason it wouldn't show me the spawn tiles in the cave, so I had to go back to the old caveman days and read the wiki like some sort of nerd. But we adapt, you know? Main hand the crystal bow, use knives on the bats and the blobs, and use the spec from that on the rangers if you need them to die quickly. Heal up on the big melee boys with Blood Blitz if you need it. Pretty simple formula, super effective. Now if my gear was a little bit better, I'd be running around a lot more actively, but to stop myself from making stupid mistakes that would waste the run, I sort of did a mix of Italy rock safe spotting like the old days and active luring around other mobs when I needed to for quick safe spots and such. I was expecting the mage waves to take forever too. I've never done this setup before for anything, but Crystal Bow with a range potion is so much stronger than I thought. Those goofy looking lizards went down so fast. On the second to last wave, I was a little low on hit points, so I got the last big melee healer guy to low HP, put on Protect Melee, and walked back and forth so he'd heal himself up when he tried to attack me, and then I could start all over again. Game is way too easy. Jad 2, I guess I've done all my first capes at super low levels, and I always go into Jad with panicky hands and low food, but I had so many supplies left I didn't get the Jad hands, I didn't even tank a hit. I'm actually a pro PVMer now, I'm just way too talented for sure. An hour and 13 minutes with a crystal bow and dragon knives it's pretty good, come on. What's up, gamers? Moral Queen is doing boring mid-level Slayer this week, which means I haven't had the motivation to play for more than a few hours per day, and I'm not going to force myself to. But that means the clips are slow and the content is boring, so I'm saving it to be massively cut down for episode 12 once I'm past the incredibly painful, slow mid-game Slayer grind instead of trying to make interesting content out of something I'm not interested in. However, since I'm almost past the biggest slug so far and about to unlock a few more viable and long-term methods that I actually enjoy, I thought it'd be a good time to stop and do a little recap for any newer folks and answer a few questions I've had pop up along the way and talk about some more stuff about the run. So at the end of last episode, we're at 1734 total with 498 hours on the clock. That's higher than what the in-game time is, by the way. I haven't reminded folks in a while, but the final time for the run will be the in-game time you see in the player overview tab. Even I don't know what that's at, isn't that fun? But with world hops, logging out for respawns, logging out for 30 seconds of reading the wiki, turning it on before I hit log in, and after I log out, I'm pretty happy with the pace I'm at almost 500 hours. We got 75 rune crafting and the full Guardians of the Rift outfit, as well as the Abyssal Needle. We stole multiple generations worth of artifacts for DJ Khaled and stole from some dead Saradomin worshippers for 85 thieving. We barbarian fished for 84 fishing and the agility requirement for Sepulchre, which got us to 82 agility. Rampaged through the wilderness and got a good pile of Laren's keys and ran away from a ton of peak kickers along the way, of course, and moved out of the wildy to get up to 72 Slayer. Just so many of the early annoying things out of the way. The account is even almost finished with all of the quest requirements I need for the final few of the run, and the levels I have left are super easy to get done when I need them. We have almost all of the painful quests out of the way, gotten the annoying low levels up to a point where I can use real decent methods to make progress, got real methods for useful amounts of GP, now I just need the combat levels to catch up. You know, on most accounts, I just go sit at Nightmare Zone while I play another account and wait for higher combat levels before bothering with Slayer. And especially these days, there's so much RNG content and gear you can get to around mid-game. Usually I can come into Slayer in a much less annoying way, but sadly that doesn't work for a speedrun that doesn't participate in immoral activities by interacting with another account in any way unless it's necessary to complete the content. Welcome back to the Force of Habit. Point is, I want to do this efficiently with as little in-game time as possible. I can't be sitting at crabs for 25 hours getting 35k attack XP or running trash gear TOA runs hoping for an early fang or ring, you know? That said, we have gotten lucky on a few grinds that could have been incredibly painful to go dry on. In episode 1, the Gout Tuber grind took less than an hour, partly because I did it at such a low woodcutting level before going off to Wintertod, but mostly because I got stupidly lucky. Most people I think would expect to set aside like 2 or 3 hours for a Gout Tuber, and I've seen people go tens of hours dry for it, and I don't know what I'd do with the sunk cost fallacy of going dry on something instead of just dipping and rerouting. Stuff like the Dragon Defender and the Black Mask too. On my last 2 accounts I went hundreds of kills dry for the Dragon Defender, over 800 on my UAM, and both of them took 1500 Cave Horror kills or more for the Black Mask. I was kind of scared of the RNG grinds at first, because my luck streak has previously been pretty bad, save for the occasional low kill count enhanced seed or a lucky pet. I got a little PTSD from waiting 217 chambers of Xeric KC for a purple on my UIM. It's hard out here. But so far, I mean, all of the actually important RNG has been great. 131 KC for the Black Mask, 384 for the Dragon Defender, sub 1 hour Gout Tuber, the million GP Totem at Revenants, we got 2 pieces of Dragon High? 2 pieces of Dagon High from the Laren's chests, and hey, I'll tell you here, because if you've got this far, you're clearly into the series, I just got an Eternal Gem from a Big Booty Bloodveld and made an Eternal Ring. I usually don't want to do spoilers, but it's surrounded by boring Slayer content I don't want to force onto you, so there you go. You're welcome. And I got it before 100 combat, which means it's even more useful because it has unlimited free Neve teleports before I can go to Duradel. I just love saving time when I don't even mean to. I even got a few things I don't think most people would have noticed because they were just put in between Slayer clips without me talking about it because they just do nothing for the run. There was the Skeleton Champion scroll I got at 113 kill count. Hill Giant Champion scroll at 111 kill count. And a Lesser Demon Champion scroll at 248 kill count. More recently too, since last episode and even after the Eternal Gem, I got 2 Obsidian Capes and an Obsidian Maul from 156 Zarkets, which are both 1 in 512 drops. And just, I'm so sorry, collection log people. But even small things like Tree Seed RNG from Birdhouse runs, supply drops from Wildy Slayer, good RNG on quest bosses, it's been really nice so far. That said though, I think people worry too much about the small things. I mean, pardon the cliche, I guess, but like when people ask me why I would alch nature runes instead of alch runes because they see it as wasting all my money anyway. But things like that really don't matter in a run like this. Sure, I'm gonna need nature runes and magic XP later, or I could have sold them to Ali Morrisane for GP or whatever, but in the long run, I'm gonna be doing ZMI to 99 rune crafting, Sepulchre to 99 agility. Those alone give me more nature runes than I'm ever going to use, and they don't sell for enough to GP to worry about hoarding them when I could use them to my benefit. Sure, if I alched air runes, I'd have only used 1 nature rune, but I also would have gotten 2 GP. At the time, I needed magic XP, I needed to make money while I was doing things that cost money, and I had a giant stack of nature runes from Guardians of the Rift, so why would I not get 108 GP per alch from runes I didn't spend money on? I even alched blood runes, soul runes, even a few law runes. I think what people forget is that this isn't the kind of speedrun where you're... Well, not even speedrun, it's not even the type of account where you're trying to min-max some future nebulous goal like raiding enough to get a mega rare or collection log completion stuff. It's about progressing as fast as you can to the next step while also making sure you set yourself up for the step after that. If I didn't alch those nature runes, I would have had less money in my kingdom, which means I'd have lower herblore and fletching and construction levels, because I can't just go off and decide to do some low XP but decent GP thing when there's so many ways to keep making money while I do other things. What's that thing they say about it being a marathon and not a sprint? Whatever it is, it's pretty much that. A few people have commented that they think parts of the run are wrong or sus, or they would do it differently or whatever. Things like doing Winter Todd or Wilderness Slayer, but I think it's hard to quite see what goes into something like this from like the videos alone, which is why I'm making this one, I guess. The planning of something like this is so stupidly in-depth it's hard to give one specific reason why something is a good or a bad thing for me to do, because that's not quite how you plan this kind of thing. I spent maybe 3 to 5 hours every day for close to 2 weeks making spreadsheets with hundreds of steps on each page, trawling over wiki pages and compiling lists of random garbage I had to pick up to do some random thing 100 hours ago that I completely forgot existed. It was kind of fun. It's like playing the game without having to actually do the grinds. I fudged a few of the steps into different orders and have moved some of the parts of the plan around to better fit where the account actually is at that stage, but it's all planned forwards and backwards and added onto and mathed out and cross-checked with people who are much smarter than me. I'm not saying it's perfect, it's pretty far from it, but when I get questions or criticism about something I've done in the run, I can choose to go into a 4-paragraph explanation on why I did it that stretches out 400 hours from now and tells you exactly what's going to happen in all the videos, or I can just choose to let them think I suck. The second one is a lot easier. I don't think I'll ever release my spreadsheet for people because it's tailored pretty specifically to my brain and I don't want to subject you to that nightmare, but I may at some point go over how I choose whether something is worth it in the long run. Perhaps a big video after the run is over where I go over some of the big stepping stones along the way and how I chose them over other things. People might like that, but it'll definitely be a while. The other thing is, this speedrun is so long and has such a widespread goal that you can make such hugely different choices in the routing to get there and still not make that big of a difference in your time. Maybe you do it differently and you think it'll be faster, but you don't know until you do it, so go do it yourself and prove that I did it wrong. I'll subscribe. Oh, just as a quick side note, I've had a few people ask about the music I use, because I just constantly pick banger tracks with my amazing and perfect taste in music, of course, so I'll just say here. I'm working on making a playlist with all the songs I used, but the first 7 episodes were all recorded on a computer I can't get to right now, and I can't be bothered going through the videos and trying to match everything back up because I'm terrible at remembering track names. It'll happen one day. This segment is called Nobody Asked, but I'm gonna tell you anyway. Here's how I would improve Slayer. 1. Delete it, it's for the best. If that's not possible, then 2. Add preferred tasks. I know people use it to get more XP per hour, and I'm okay with that. Let me make it easier to get a Kraken task the one time a year I want one. Number 3. Task shorteners. You know, like the task extension unlocks, but you pay 500 points to reduce the max amount they can assign from whatever monster. Please, anything that helps me cope. Number 4, Slayer bracelets that hold more charges like a Ring of Suffering, because it's 2023, come on. And finally, number 5, let us pay a chunk of points to pick a task we want. Please. The Slayer task system is so annoying and makes it so hard to get into a rhythm with Slayer, I mean, for me personally anyway. I just want to be able to pay to do a task we like sometimes. Maybe it doesn't reward Slayer points, maybe it's super expensive so you can't abuse it for point boosting, I don't know. I know you can pay to store a streak for the future, but that's also kind of stupid in my opinion. I just don't like Slayer. I'll die on this hill. Slayer sucks. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. The sailing question has come up a few times. They picked a really silly time to start the dev process for that. I told them to do it years ago, but they never listened to me after I suggested EOC to mark down at the pub, so now I have to adapt, it's whatever. But it's pretty simple. If sailing comes out before I get a Maxcape, I take a break for the metas to form and fit it in wherever I am in the run as efficiently as I can. If I get the Maxcape before sailing comes out, which I'm pretty sure is going to be the case, like a year of polls and Reddit threads and surveys and repolls and discourse, and I'm already tired of it. But if I get the Maxcape before sailing comes out, I log out straight away and I wait. Basically, that'll be the time of the run. But again, once the metas form and I've made a plan, I log back in and do another episode or 3 getting 99 sailing as an epilogue or something. Originally, I was planning on gearing the account up and going for post-max PVM and XP goals, but sailing kinda messed that up for me a little bit, messed up the narrative of the series, so I've gone back to the Mayhapsibly account that I made the Calvarian video with, who already has a bunch of side upgrade items, like we got a 1 KC D-pick and a 30-something KC Voidwaker blade, and hey, whatever. I'll max another Iron account, it's not that hard. I've had a few people ask if I'm getting burnt out from playing like this, and honestly, it's kind of the opposite. I genuinely love this game. I've been playing since I was like 9, and because the run is based purely on in-game time, I don't lose anything by just logging out when I don't want to play, and I'm okay with letting myself do that. Even with this med-level Slayer grind, it's not that I'm burnt out from the game, I'll go play another account or something, but the Slayer loop is just so incredibly boring to me, and it's even worse when you don't have access to decent tasks, so it's hard to session out 30 tasks in a day without getting bored and distracted and losing XP and time. Luckily, I'm almost past that point, and the account is starting to have so many options that I'm really excited about, but for a little while longer, she's stabbing worms and smoke barraging Dagonoths and logging out after a couple of hours. It just be like that sometimes, and that's okay. It is a little rough scheduling it all with the time spent editing and trying to start a YouTube channel with a consistent schedule where I can't use that time to AFK things to progress and having job obligations on top of that, but it's been going pretty well so far. I actually just got monetized the other day, which happened pretty quickly, and I'm pretty jazzed about it, and I really appreciate all the support you folks have given me. It means a lot. Hey, you could become a channel member now, or leave a super chat if you want to help me buy a better computer and sound setup, or watch my member streams in the future if you know like a cool and nice person who supports their favorite moral percent speedrunner. Plus, it's easier to justify the multiple full-time jobs worth of hours I put into the game and the editing and the channel if you can get a little support from it. So hey, got a plug, you know how it is. I left this for the end for all the real fans, big shout out, but I was incredibly nervous to start uploading content and trying to get people to watch it, and it's really been the opposite of my expectations so far. All the likes you leave, the sweet and adorable comments I get to wake up to, suggestions on how to make better videos, and all the well wishes for the channel in the future. It's been a lot and it happened pretty fast, and I just want to say thanks. So, thanks. I guess that's all I had to say, really. The Moral Girl will be back next week, and she's just so excited to see you, so come on back now, you hear. See you next time. Gamers, it's finally over. 12 episodes later, over 500 hours in, we finally finished the first step of my plan that I've been talking about since episode 1. We hit 100 combat. With that, I'm finished with the biggest, most incredibly boring slog of the entire speedrun, where I don't use alts, scouts, boosting, or interact with another account in any way unless it's necessary to complete the content. Welcome back to the Iron Maxcape Speedrun Moral Percent. Now, some of you are probably thinking 100 combat isn't that big of a deal, you're gonna get that at some point anyway. Why force yourself to do early game Slayer when you could just progress more and do it later? But it's not 2007 anymore. All those little updates that have come out over the years, the diary updates, combat changes, even engine updates. If you don't know why I'm so excited about this, well, just sit back and relax and I'll show you. It's time for a glow up. After fishing some fish and bonking some trolls, we finished Swan Song, scored a game-winning goal in Gnome Ball, of course, minigame tallied to Pest Control to complete a game of the Novice, Intermediate, and Veteran Pest Control boats, while also fletching, of course. We went off to kill 30 rare birds to claim a hat I didn't want from an ogre, and completed the Western Easy Diary. But of course we can't stop there, so we shot another 95 birds for more hats that I didn't want, got 72 cooking from the lowest level gnome cocktail, slaughtered an elf, built a painting, killed some more birds, you know how it is. And of course, you know I saved Zulrah for last, it's good content. Now, I've killed Zulrah a couple thousand times on other accounts, so I went in a little, overconfident, I think. You know, range switches and extra potions and runes I didn't need, but it turns out you can't make up for low DPS just by knowing how to not die. On the first attempt, after 5 full minutes, Zulrah was only at like 50% health, so I gave up on that one. After I banked and re-geared, I decided to try and get a better rotation by logging out after seeing what came up if it wasn't the one I wanted. I'm trying to find one with more range phases where I could actually do some good damage. I found a rotation that I thought was cool and got just wrecked, so, you know, we go again. Number 3, got frustrated not getting a good rotation, so I just chose the first one, and then died with it at 154 health. I guess that's progress. Number 4, yep. Number 5, not enough damage, teleported out. Number 6, I tanked up, mage only, using Blood Blitz. We hit the world record 6-minute, 31-second personal best, and got kind of a decent drop if I was ever gonna be here again, but alas. Whoa, I'm actually a PVMer, look, I have easy combat achievements done. Also, I lied, I'm sorry. I actually left the palm tree for the last task. You can't control me. But that's the Western Hard Diary completed. Private Chin Hunter area, extra teleports in the elf crystals, sure, but more importantly, we now have access to the crystal halberd, which just boosted my Slayer XP per hour considerably. As soon as I can afford it anyway, I'm poor as hell right now. IRL too, you should become a YouTube member if you want to keep Moral Queen out of the breadline. I've got a members-only Discord if you want to hang out and chat about vids or theorycraft about the game or talk about how Slayer sucks. Members-only live streams in the future too. Check it out, y'all. These folks already did, and I love and accept them with my whole heart. Gotta plug, you know how it is. With the biggest time waste diary finally out of the way, it was time to clean up a few of the quest lines and unlocks that I've been waiting for a while now. That's Dream Mentor done to unlock the rest of the lunar spells. A few concussions and a couple of boss fights later, that's making friends with my arm completed for another free Immortal Herb patch, as well as access to big stacks of incredibly easy to gather salts that I can turn into teleports to get to those herb patches. Then after selling off half my runes, because again I'm always poor, it's really hard y'all, there's so much stuff to pay for, I spent all of it on sending my butler back and forth to the sawmill using up all the teak and mahogany logs I also spent all my money on from Miscellanea. I did it all in a high-risk world because it's fun to watch people lose more in a single fight than I've ever seen before, while I also lose all of my money. Makes me feel a little bit better about it, you know? Now, of course, I could use way less planks and just do mahogany homes to 70 construction. I had way more planks than I needed for that, but I also had enough planks to make a ton of dining tables to get to 68 construction, and still had enough left over to only have to do 36 mahogany homes tasks to round off the level. Got one step closer to base 70s. We call that a time save in the business. With 83 quarming from some farms and 1775 total, I needed some time to recuperate from my time in Neve's Slayer Slave mines, and the next quests coming up aren't my favorite things in the world, so Moral Queen is headed back to the Dayalt mine in Darkmire to relax and kick back and bank some runecrafting XP. And that's all you'll hear from your hero Moral Queen this week. Last episode, we finally finished my least favorite part of the entire run and got 100 combat through the painful mid-game Slayer grind and moved on to some great quality of life quests and upgrades I've been fiending for a while now. We did Pest Control, Chompies, and Zulra to finish the Western Heart Achievement Diary to unlock the Crystal Halberd. We did Dream Mentor for the rest of the lunar spells, and making friends with my arm to unlock the Immortal Weiss Herb patch, as well as the Salt Mines to make teleports to the Troll Stronghold patch worth using. We spent all the money we had left on 70 construction through tables and just a little bit of mahogany homes, and settled down at the Dayalt Mines for a well-deserved break. Moral Queen now has just a few more level 70s to go before the quest-doing arc of the run can finally be finished, and we get to move on to some more enjoyable content. We're basically coming to the end of Season 1, isn't that exciting? The first thing I did was make some more planks, mostly to work on getting 70 woodcutting, but also to have more banked construction levels that I'm going to need later. I'm doing 1.5 tick teaks on Fossil Island and using my butler to turn them into planks, but I'll talk a bit more about the method later as I leave pretty quickly after 66 woodcutting to build up a little bit more cash at the Hallowed Sepulchre. Our little quest for gold got us 85 and 86 agility, 67 prayer from the ash offering thing, And then after a quick Mortmire Fungus session, we hit the minigame teleport to Blast Furnace to go spend all the money I just made on gold ore. Now this used to kind of suck because it was so expensive, but Blast Furnace gold is way cheaper than it used to be. It used to change by however many percent it was when you bought one, like most shops in old school RuneScape do, but now they stay static at 225 GP each all the way down to 0. So you don't have to try and race other irons down the world list, hoping to find a few fully stocked worlds to save a couple of dollars. It even restocks faster now. It's pretty great, because even though the shop restocks when the delivery guy comes in the past, if another iron sold gold to the shop and put the stock over 100, it would take almost 17 hours for that stock to go down. So they could basically rag the entire world list for any iron wanting gold with only a few hundred ores and a little bit of time. Now though, they go back down in 2 minutes, or up if they're understocked, and they still get the real fast restock from the delivery boy bringing gold randomly, so thanks Jagex. Another successful Iron Man only update in the books. I stopped at 7,773 by accident. There's no way, ginger, prick, etc. Which was more than enough to get me to 70 smithing with a little leeway for the misclicks, so that's what I did. Blast Furnace is just so satisfying to do once you get the method down. Well, don't get me wrong, it's pretty boring and nothing really happens, but getting the glove switch timing down so you don't have to stop at the dispenser and hitting a good streak of one-tick banks, it feels pretty good once it becomes second nature. It's pretty fast too, from having only 300 gold in the bank to buying 7,400 more and using it to get from 62 to 70 smithing only took 2 hours and 37 minutes total. It's such a nice little dopamine hit before moving on to some of these slower skills. So now with 70 smithing out of the way and enough money left over to get us through, we went back to Fossil Island to finish up the last skill I needed before moving on to some more quests. So the overall method is this. Teleport to the dig site boat with the dig site necklace. Travel to the island, run through the cave, chop teaks until your inventory is full. I'm doing this with 1.5 tick because it's fast, but you can do that part however you want. And then you just teleport to your house for the butler to take them to the sawmill. Get run energy if you need it, and repeat. If you're not doing 1.5 tick teaks or 3 tick maybe, it's going to be pretty slow, but the bulk of the time is just chopping logs. But with 1.5 tick, even with house teleporting and talking to the butler and getting run energy and running back, I was still getting around 83,000 XP per hour below 70 woodcutting. So it's super worth doing if you have the energy to do it. After a quick 5-hour road trip where as soon as I walked through the door, I dropped a nice monitor my girlfriend was lending me, which immediately broke. Shout out to my amazing and very talented YouTube members for helping me repay my clumsy debts. I'll be doing some member streams of some exciting content later this week if you want to come check it out. We hit 70 woodcutting, had a few ticks of mouse celebration, and then took off to gather the final items I needed for the next 3 quests. I needed a rune bar because apparently I alked the only ones I had gotten so far, which was kind of annoying. So I was a little worried given I can't smith one and they're kind of hard to get around mid-game, so I got the 3 crystal keys I had in my bank from Slayer, ran to Towerly, and what do you know? 2 of them were rune bar drops. I'm just too good at this game, it's honestly unfair for the rest of you. I hatcheted a man, Call of Duty'd some sheep, poisoned the food supplies of innocent people with no question of morals for some callous political gain when I'm more than capable of just killing the king myself instead of resorting to oppressing the oppressed, but the quest helper told me to do it, so you can't really blame me for it, I'm just doing my job, man. Senseless cruelty aside, we got 2 quest points and no levels from finishing Morning's End Part 1, so it was very worth it. And then we moved right along to Morning's End Part 2. Everyone hates this quest. Rightly so, I get it, it sucks pretty hard, but if you actually come at it prepared at a point in the account when you can actually use the rewards you get from it, you're gonna have a much better time. Even without staminas at 86 agility with super energy potions and prayer potions to camp pray melee the entire time, It was a breeze. I only failed the agility hand-holdy part like twice, I think. It was pretty chill. And that stupid list at the end to get a death talisman, it's dead content. The catalytic talisman from Guardians of the Rift gets you in there, no question these days. It's super nice. So after a nice jog around an old temple where I definitely used my brain to solve the puzzle, I finished Morning's End Part 2 for 60k agility XP, teleported to the outpost to finish the Making History quest, and went off to start the longest and most difficult quest we've done so far. The Song of the Elves. Overthrowing a monarchy for the good of the people by burning the people's food supplies that I had poisoned just moments ago, and then lying to other people about taxes. You know, this quest is just a testament to how easy it is to rise up against your oppressors. As long as you lie about their policies more than they lied about a plague, you starve the people and claim it was the enemy, you know, have a big fight and then kill them with a halberd in the town square, everything will work out okay. Politics is very easy and simple, and I've never even heard of nuance before. My quick run in local politics having finished with great success, it was time to help some elves by definitely using my own brain to solve a puzzle. Hammering a single rune bar onto an old woman, using even more of totally my own brain to solve an even bigger, stupidly long, annoying oh my god, why puzzle in a library, jumping on some rocks and chopping a tree, a little bit of NPC pathing mechanic abuse to aid in violence, and then even more violence. The elves seem to love violence. The first mini-boss, I made the tiny mistake of clicking way too late and died, but on the second time back we showed him who was in charge. The little tower defense minigame thing went super smoothly. All I had to do was bring a sort of fast ranged weapon and shoot any of the enemies when they started attacking the base. So that was finished first try, and the second demi-boss guy was even easier than the first one somehow, so we knocked him out pretty fast, and then it was time for a real challenge. Now, annoyingly, it seems like I didn't learn my lesson from my struggle with Zulrah last episode and assumed mechanical knowledge is more important than actual DPS. Last time I did this fight, I only used Karamp wands, and I finished it on the first try. It was the same magic level, it was in Mystics with no Dagon High. I thought this was going to be a cakewalk compared to that even. Like, the mechanics are easy, surviving is easy, the only thing I don't have control over is how fast the boss's health gets to 0, but geez y'all, I don't know who I made angry at Jagex, but even with Blood Blitz, Pineapple Pizzas, Karamp wands, using darts for the crystal tornado thingies, not using darts for the crystal tornado thingies, my DPS was just so low on every attempt. I died twice, but only due to stupid mistakes like removing my glory instead of clicking the teleport I want, and because when I resorted to the tried and true Phoenix Necklace method, I ate my first Belladonna way too early. Luckily though, the Phoenix Necklace Cave Nightshade tech was more than enough to give me more time to do damage before I have to tally out. If you're not sure how it works, Phoenix Necklaces heal 30% of your hit points when you go below 20% of your hit points while wearing it, and clear any pending damage from delayed things like arrows or spells. Cave Nightshade, or Belladonna if you farm it, do 15 damage to you when you eat them. So you balance between using Blood Blitz and Ice Blitz to stay around 20% of your hit points, and when the Fragment of Saren starts up her big damage attack, you put on a necklace, eat a Belladonna, and get a free heal and don't take any damage from the boss. It's pretty nice, and it doesn't delete your prayer points like Redemption does. And yeah, I know if you farm Belladonna now it's stackable, so you can bring more necklaces and food, but you have to be pretty low level for that to be a real benefit. I brought 9 necklaces and only used 6, so it doesn't really change that much, you know? With the Fragment of Saren down and a huge amount of spacebar holding later, we finished Song of the Elves, unlocked Prif, got 74 herblore, and we are now one step closer to the end of the quest era of the Moral Percent speedrun. Last episode, having finally finished the 100 combat grind, we set to work finishing off the final few quest requirements we needed for the run. We started with 70 smithing at the blast furnace. We went to Fossil Island to 1.5 tick some teaks for 70 woodcutting, and finally finished Morning's End Part 1 and Part 2 so that we could have a few frustrating fights with Saren to complete the Song of the Elves. Now with only a few more quests to go, I went back to the Hallowed Sepulchre to build up the GP a little bit and prepare for my next moves. One of those moves was killing steel dragons 16 times for a rune limb drop, which I really should have done during Slayer. I skipped plenty of steel dragon tasks, but there's always next speedrun, right? So I made the rune crossbow, took out some gems, and went back to Sepulchre to make and enchant some bolts, and pass the time while I waited for the time to come for my Dragon Slayer 2 stream. If you didn't catch it, I'm going to be doing members-only streams on YouTube for a while. If you want to come hang out and see how the morality is made, it's a lot of fun, and look at all the new friends you could have. Oh, of course I only brought one death rune. This is a great start. This is a great start to a stream, y'all. Oh god, I forgot about the Bob the Cat locating. It's time to go to Varrock and hop in the Anvil room. Oh, this is not very exciting. Oh, fucking first hop, can you believe it? Come on. Oh, I actually love Bob, he's such a cool guy. It was a moral hop with no scouting. I even used the keyboard hotkey. I don't know which world I'm even on. Sophanam, how do we get there? This way. No, not this way. How do I get to Sophanam? I'm having performance anxiety now. No, we do go this way. But now I have run energy. Wait, this isn't the move. I don't know why I'm doing this. I'm going the completely wrong way. I didn't want to go this way, but I'm here. I'm doing it. I'm a waste of time. Nah, I could have teleported to Falador and changed my house to Polnivneach and teleported there in like 20% of the time. I've done it hundreds of times before, but now I'm streaming so my brain doesn't work. Yeah, I don't have friends. That's immoral. Friends help you get through the day, and that's like alting, basically, so... Is this the 5-minute patch thing? Am I gonna like do a bird run or something? Oh my god. Oh, we got some little cuties here. I'm so good. 15 to 35 minutes. There is no shot. There's no way. I would have done this earlier. Oh, I forgot. Alright. I feel like my skilling fit is pretty good, right? The red D-hide. The Nezzy. Big chillin'. Also, I'm stepping because I'm poor. Flashcards, you know that. It's one of the few perpetual truths of Moral Queen. This is the biggest cash stack I've ever had. This is a long 15 to 35 minutes, tell you that. Let's go! Oh, I love that. Okay, cool. Almost done. Back on track, finally. Varrock. I didn't bring my runes. I didn't bring any teleport. I call this a teleport of shame in the business. I never find Bob again. Pretty cringe. Oh, he's still here. This game is so good, actually. Any unskippable cutscene enjoyers? I haven't done Secrets of the North yet. Let's go. Okay, now we can do the real quest. Yeah, bank organization is kind of a huge time waste. I mostly, I'll show you real quick. I'll waste a few ticks for you. I mostly use these, the bank tag layouts. You can get everything you need in here without ever having to actually organize, so it's pretty nice, actually. And you can set those up on other accounts too. Oh, and you asked earlier, DS2 is almost entirely for Wrath runes for the prayer grind through Slayer and stuff. What's up, Dallas? And this guy that you're not allowed to say the name of. Oh, I didn't bring a weapon. You think I can think I can squash that little bug thing with my Draymond staff? Let's find out, I guess. Yeah, okay. Just a little prayer flick in, you know how it go. Maybe a pickaxe. Look, it would have taken more time to go back. Trying to UIM brain this inventory and not bank stuff, but I don't know how successful that's gonna be. Oh god, are there a ton of map pieces I have to pick up? I think there are. We got this, it's fine. No issues. Never had an issue. Never wasted ticks. Never once, ever. Yeah, I can give them to Dallas, but I gotta pick them all up and run them back and forth every time. And then I gotta use them. It's fine, I got planks. Whatever. Fine. I don't have my planks back. How about that? Guess I got my rune pickaxe back too. I think I've got this. Yeah, so this one goes here. Yeah. Yeah, I haven't even looked at the rest of them. I just feel like I'm just kind of know what to do. I'm not sure what that is. I think I'm just really, really good at puzzles. Oh, I'm so smart. I keep my reflexes to just go Fletch. I hate this. I hate quests. I can Fletch now. I can Fletch. Oh, he's still here. Man, what a homie. I love Bob. Hope he never dies. Okay. See, look, this is the strat. And you want to get to Sofina. You go here, relocate, put it in Polnavnich. Boom, you're halfway there already. Look at that. That's the strat. I mean, to be fair, it's a 7.5k teleport instead of a 200 GP carpet ride, but I think it's worth relocating. Get smashed, nerd. I think he technically just chanced me. Teammate's not going in anymore. I'm not very confident in this. I might have to go buy some rune. No, I did the thing. I did the stupid thing. I did the thing and I panicked. Oh, I'm so dumb. Oh, it's the same thing I did on Saren. Man. Oh, that was bad. Okay, what do we do? What do we do here? We get our Moon Clan. We go right back. This time, we're gonna make pineapple pizzas. 100k on that, can you imagine? I even had the Boots of Lightness on. Oh god, I'm so good. Did Robert the Strong in Proselyte last time, but I guess we can't all be as strong as Mayhapsibly. I'll have to buy some rune. Live with my failures. Maybe I do the super defense pot too. That might be the way. I might just pre-pot it and leave it in the bank. Probably. Oh, I didn't do the super defense. I even said it out loud. Come on, D-Mace. Hit a 32. I guess a 15 is fine. See, if I'd have just hit the first time, it would have been fine. Bruh. Stop hitting. Maybe it wouldn't have been fine. Okay. Hit the man. Hit the man. Make me hide so I can eat more. Why isn't he making me hide? I have no health, guy. I want to run away and eat in the corner. What's going on? Okay, jeez. Ugh. That last little bit of HP was a struggle, but we did it. I remember. Good job, Bob. Do I have any more fights before the Ships? I don't remember this quest very well. I think I just tuned it out every time I've done it. Oh, duh. No shit, Vorcat. No, what's the boss? How did I forget Vorcat? Not important, he never comes up again. Nice, we got the first key. And first key part, I guess. Of course, I don't have any fire runes. Jeez. Nope. Something about the glory, I just cannot click buttons. Bruh. Finally. What? Swear to God. Okay, there we go. Should I have an EI? I can just take it off my Slayer helm. Uncharge. Yes. Okay. Boom. Game is way too easy now, actually. I just bank teleported from a bank so that I could bank. We got our anti-poisons, we got the anti-fire, we got the shield, we got the bolts. Yeah. Me already? I'm not confident in this. I say that about everything though, so let's see. I mean, I've done a lot of Vorcaf in the past. Oh, that was fast. He auto woke up. Didn't think that was gonna happen. That's not how you do it. Still not really how you do it, but it works, so whatever. You know, I did do like 2,000 Vorcath on my main, but it was like 3 years ago. You know, haven't done much in a while. I am good at PVM, I just prefer skilling. Oh, I say that right when I walk on the poison, but it's okay. This is going way too smoothly. Something has to go wrong. No! We chillin'? Oh, we're chillin'. I'm getting hit though. That's okay. I'd like to hit. That it? No? That it? Yeah! Look at that. Oh, we're tick perfect. Technically. If you don't think about it. Alright. That was way too easy. Now I'm gonna be overconfident for Galvac, and it's gonna take me 76 attempts. See, is it gonna be cool? They're just gonna let us? We're gonna get washed down. Yeah, okay, fine. Fine. Fire making. There we go. Sure. Can I just do it right here? And then say hi. And now I can go? Maybe? I hope so. Oh, did they fix this now? Nope. The stupidest thing in the game. You can't just click it and it runs you over. It always says I have to get onto the pier. And then you still gotta like walk randomly anyway, so why didn't it just path me? It's a cool game. Nothing's wrong with it, actually. Wait, what? I did talk to him about fire making again. Do I have to do it a third time? This is so lame. Oh my god, because you have to do the next step. Whatever. Alright, we're on track now. Oh, come on! Drum roll, please? Yay! The dramatic angle. Boom. We got a key. Let's go. Making big moves, actually. I'm not being dumb, right? You can't teleport to the thingy until after the quest. And there's no other mush trees that are close. Oh, I absolutely did not know that. Wow. Not like I've lost any time or anything, but... Oh, oh no, I did go the right way. Something new every day. I'll remember that for my next Iron Maxcape Speedrun moral percent. I'll do it like 12 minutes faster because of that time save. I've even had conversations with people before, like, oh yeah, I want to do DS2 so I can get the teleport. And people are like, yeah, it's a good idea. Not that that's why I'm doing it this time, but the teleport is helpful. It's gonna be something. 80 range is like right on the edge of where I'm comfortable. If it takes more than a couple of times, I'll warn you in advance. If it takes more than a couple of times, I'm probably gonna spend a couple days doing chins and come back to it another day. But, you know, confidence is key. We got this. But red D-hide, you know, the option is either go do a bunch of crafting training or do a bunch of range training. So one of those is a lot quicker. Wait, what did I just come here for? Oh my god. Boots. Thank you. Me. Maybe I bring more food. Maybe I'm being overconfident. I don't know what I need space for. I don't think I'm picking anything up, so... rather waste ticks getting more now. I'm gonna have to drop it. And I'm glad, because I forgot my stamina, too. See, this is why we accept that we make mistakes, because we learn from them. Oh my god, I love cutscenes. This is hard. Yeah, okay. Jagex heard me talk. God, this is such a waste. It could have been 1 minute and it would have been okay. Why is it so long? And this is the skill you guys voted for. I mean, I don't know why. You gonna do this to 99? Come on. It's really the hardest part of the quest, honestly. You trapped on a hole, buddy? Need some help? Okay. It'll be over soon. Green dragons can fly. Why do they live in a shitty crater in the wilderness? That's the real truth Jagex is hiding from you. They don't have to pick themselves up by their bootstraps, Puck. They have wings. They have an appendage for picking themselves up, and they live in a shitty crater in the wilderness, so... I'm so glad I did agility. It's so much smoother. It's so much more comfortable. I failed, what, like 3 times at most? Okay. I guess I shouldn't talk. Failed, what, 4 times at most? Yo! Let's go! Now I don't need to go train range. I've got more than enough levels. If this isn't a gamer save spot... Oh, okay. Again, I shouldn't talk. I have the capacity to play other games. I just... usually don't. I play idle games. That counts. Okay. There are fireballs happening. I need to remember that. I forgot 3 times in a row last time I did this quest. Yes, I'm not easy to kill, it's true. I'm too moral for that. Death is very immoral. Cool, cool, cool. Bob is dead. Love that. I'm getting the Jad hands. I've done this enough times I shouldn't have any issues, but I'm getting the twitchy big boss fight hands. I do got this. I'm confident in my abilities. I'm just shaky. So the fun thing is, they just keep moving, and there's enough space under the dragon to get away from the fireballs while they attack him, and you can flinch it, and you don't have to take any damage. I'm just gonna tag you, make it a little bit easier, and now he's trapped in the corner. Like a good dragon. You can take your time and eat your food when you want to, and deal with your potions when you want to, and you don't take a ton of damage. It's pretty nice. I know you can't flinch with the range, but the point is they do a ton of damage. You can just hide under the dang dragon. Hit it when you're comfortable. Doing these dragons on low levels is pretty rough sometimes. Ooh, that was a close one. That was a real close one. See, like, there's just no shot I'm tanking a rune dragon at this type of account. so strong. Just gonna hang out. Just gonna hang out. Not risking it. Don't need to waste the food. I know it's gonna die. Yeah, I figured that strat out of necessity on my last account. It's easier to survive against Galvek than it is against the metal dragons in my experience, so we don't. Remage first. Yes. Alright. We're doing it. We're doing the Galvek thing. Start like this, maybe a teleport out. Yep, a start like that is a teleport out, because I'm not wasting my time. Okay, no specs, but we're hitting. We were. There we go, there's the numbers. Really not a fan of how low these are. That second phase? Yeah, okay. Well, we're not too badly off. If I can get a little luck here. Oh, and I can quick pray now. If you could just do a couple ruby specs, I'd really appreciate it, please. just a couple. I mean, I'm doing really badly on the ruby specs, but not bad otherwise, considering. Okay. Thank you, jeez. Not a 12 XP drop, come on. This is still within doable territory. Oh, yes! Let's go! Let's go! It's happening! It's not happening! Complain meta is only strong for the briefest of moments, and then the complain meta breaks. There we go. Okay. We're in diamond range. It could be happening. That's scary though. Oh, am I not gonna hit now? Okay. Don't tell me I'm gonna get this far. Oh, come on. Come on. Come on. No. No, that's not fair. Oh, it could be fair still. 2 hits. I can survive 2 hits, especially if he's doing that. Come on. No, hit him though. No, that's cringe. No. Man, that's lame. That was way closer than I thought it was gonna be, I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, if it had just hit a couple extra times at the end there. I can't tell if I'm let down or excited, because that was a lot easier than I thought it was gonna be, but I still didn't do it. It's just a test, getting the nerves out. You know how it is. All right, we're number 2, and we're off to an amazing start already. Maybe I spoke too soon. It's pretty good actually. Better than the last one already. Hit a number. Hit a number? Holy. There we go. Come on, okay. A little bit of a waste of 30 damage, but, you know, we take it. Let's go. Now this side. Let's go. Come on. This is going even better. Oh, this is too good. This is too good. I respect you, Galvek. Please do not take my words as an insult. Come on. Do a number. Hit something. Jesus Christ. There we go. Come on. Kill the thing. Let's fucking go, you stupid lizard. Get fucked. The second try's pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. Look at me, my red D-hide. Come on. I'm unstoppable. I had to fucking sell my Megalodon. That's so good. Oh my god. Oh, I'm too good at this game, honestly. Who needs accuracy? That's so funny. Where am I going? Okay. Man, I either got real lucky or real unlucky in the past, because that's never been that easy for me. Hell yeah. Look at that. Ah, that's so exciting. Oh, and I got 71 smithing. Hell yeah. And 75 mining. And 1800 total. Let's go. Alright. Alright, not bad. Let's please. What are we doing? Range, I guess? Range, I guess? Range, I guess? And, I think range, I guess? Yeah, cool, 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 cool. There's like a gnome I've got to talk to or something. I don't know if I'm ever gonna need it, but I'm gonna make sure I've got the unlocks. Oh, I gotta buy a cape. I need GP, I'm gonna buy a cape, and then I'm done. And that's where the stream ended. With the mythical cape in the bank and the promise of wrath runes in the future, I was pretty happy. So I decided to use that good energy to do something I hate, because happiness is for the weak. More quests. Or, it was only one quest really. I finished Contact because I need it for later, but after that was Pyramid Plunder, and boy, I really do not enjoy that. I'm sure some of you are out there love it, and I would be fine with it honestly if there just weren't so many movement stalls everywhere. Every door or coffin or urn you click stops your inputs for so long, it's just so frustrating. But I'm gonna need a Pharaoh Scepter in the future before I go back to Slayer, so I can build the Spellbook altar in the house instead of running through the desert until 99 Slayer, so necessary evils or whatever. Plus, I figured I made a bunch of staminas and had some left over because I stocked a few to make sure DS2 would go fast. Why not chug through them and make Pyramid Plunder a little bit easier? So I got 87 thieving on a door. Tried to figure out some mechanics I could use to try and skip the stalls, but it didn't work out. I was just coping. I got 88 thieving and top-down mode right after I ran out of stamina pots, so I decided to come back later once I could enter the final room. And now Moral Queen is back in the Dayalt Mines, which means that's it for this episode of the Moral Percent Speedrun. Actually, past Gwen, it's the end of Season 1 of the Moral Percent Speedrun. I hope you enjoyed this gig-along compilation of the entire run so far. I really appreciate everyone watching, and I especially appreciate all of my YouTube members. My most supreme of appreciations, of course, for my Gwemlin Supremes, Darby, Mitaka, Coldsy, and Vintage Tops. I appreciate you all so very much. And, of course, my Gwemlins, which the list is starting to get a little bit long, so I'm going to be doing the new members as well as a couple of randomly picked ones every week from now. So this week, we've got AA, Bo, Haya, and Stark, and of course, the hugest of shoutouts to Rachel and Sina. And of course, all of my supporters. I appreciate every single one of you. You make my life a little bit easier, so thank you. Alright, see you for Season 2. Bye.